Gentlemen of the Bigs, it is Monday, August the 19th, 2019. Week 19 has concluded, and what a fantastic week this was. Let's bring on my co-host here, Benjamin Aloysius Nisman. How are you, sir?
Joe, good to be back. Yeah, like you said, just exciting, incredible battles, spoilers, top guys taking care of business. And we started with the guy at the front of the line doing his job, but it could have been worse, right, Joe?
Oh my goodness, there was such a great competition this week from literally top to bottom. You know, it was an incredible series of matchups here this week. And yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Let's kick it off with Mike Haber, who's leading the way now, who took on James McCloskey, Stanton Room only, and he gets a 12-9 win here. But man, this could have been a whole lot worse for James. This could have been disastrous for him. Close matchups or close categories this week. Mike wins by a triple, an inning and a third pitched, a walk given up by a pitcher, and a relief appearance. James wins by 2 homers, a walk, and a save. They did not tie anywhere. For Mike on his bench, he hit 9 for 46. That's a 196 batting average. He had 5 runs, 3 homers, 5 RBIs, 3 walks, and 11 strikeouts on his bench. The 5 runs would have flipped the category, but he would have had to be perfect. The 3 homers is the same story, and the 3 walks is almost the same story. He did lose that category by 1, and he had 3 on the bench. So would have had to be nearly perfect in a lot of those to flip those 3 categories. His moves this week, nothing really to write home about. You know, he picked up a couple of pitchers late, did not even play them because he dropped them later that afternoon, much in the same way I did, and we'll get to that later on. The rest of the guys on the team, he sort of picked up and dropped at will. Not a whole lot to write home about there. The things on his bench, though, are pretty glaring as far as what he left and what he did. Tuesday was a pretty huge pitching week for him. He went 18 2/3 with 2 wins, 2 saves, an 0.96 ERA, 26 strikeouts, an 0.64 WHIP, and 4 relief appearances. You know, the guy pitched to a 2.52 ERA and an 0.93 WHIP. He kind of gave James McCloskey a taste of his own medicine. You know, he pitched incredibly well.
If anything, like you said it, like how do you throw a 2.52 ERA in 53 innings? I mean, that's just absurd. I don't know how most of us are going to compete with that. I think, you know, you look at the record, he was 5-1 over the 53 innings, giving up only 6 home runs, only 14 walks. And what's amazing, I mean, he competed with James, who only gave up 15 walks and only pitched 1 inning less. So just a little bit too good with the pitching. And when you're in such a strong position pitching-wise, and like you said, he was on Tuesday, he could kind of play in the driver's seat and make the other guy make the first mistake. And he just kept on, you know, chipping away with those innings, I guess.
Yeah, no, he definitely put the hammer down and put James into a corner and said, okay, pitch your way out of this, and he just couldn't. He was even able to bench Madison Bumgarner on Sunday, and it's a good thing he did. I mean, Bumgarner wasn't bad, but he had he went 6 innings, he got the loss, he gave up 4 earned, 9 strikeouts. But the big thing was, they had 2 walks in that start, and that would have flipped that stat and made it 11-10. And
oh my God, that's 100% why you don't do it. It's just not worth it.
Exactly.
You just saw that category was just a winnable category right there. Why jump out and get it? We'll talk about later on some of the decisions some other managers made to go for it and actually cost them a little bit.
Yeah. One final thing I'll hit on with Mike's team. He benched Paul DeJong a couple of times. That was kind of not a good result there. DeJong on Wednesday, 2 for 4 with a homer, 2 runs, and an RBI on the bench. And Gregorius was 1 for 4 with a run and an RBI. Obviously, home runs was close. The RBIs isn't the problem, but the runs were really close too. The same thing on Friday, 1 for 4 with a...
Did DeJong walk a guy? Did DeJong walk? Did DeJong draw a walk that day?
No. Nobody.
Well, I mean,
The walks are more difficult to come across here.
right. So I mean, look, the way I see it, it's tough to sit Gregorius when, like you said, home runs are close to me. I mean, you could argue even though he let a big lead slip away here, and James made a bit of a comeback. Mike is still one of those runner-ups for manager of the week because, I mean, he did play a lot of big plays here. He did make up pickups that worked, and winning relief appearances by one, it seemed like he was able to do just enough to snag these categories by just a little bit, and I think that was huge.
Yeah, no, Mike did a fantastic job. These are the only two, changes in his lineup over the week that I found, that would have changed something. But he would have had to get both of these right on both days in order to flip homer or even tie homers. So
how many moves did these guys make?
looks like Mike got somewhere in about the 8 or 9 area. James about the same.
Okay. Just curious.
Yeah.
I might ask you that a couple of times.
Sure.
Unless you want to just throw it out there.
Yep. Let's jump to James's team. He went 2 for 23 on the bench. That's an .087 batting average. 4 runs, a homer, 2 RBIs, 4 walks, 9 strikeouts. None of that matters. He did a fantastic job with his lineup. His offense came to play this week. We'll talk later. We'll talk in a little bit about his key players, but his offense came to play. We talked about it last week that maybe James's pitching Midas touch has gone away, but his ability to find a batter that's going to hit on the day he needs somebody has gotten incredibly keen. Whether it was
one in particular that very much frustrated me on Sunday because I had planned on picking him up, not even necessarily playing him yesterday, even though he hit a dinger, and that's Nunez.
Yeah.
But I was planning on holding him for today because I knew Baltimore had a game. So if he does something in Kansas City today, I'm going to be pretty darn frustrated because I had planned to do that in like 15 minutes prior to him being taken from me. But I'm just going to say that was a really good pickup right there and a good play by James, and he really made an impressive comeback here. May have saved his season, actually, Joe. So
completely possible.
I'll give him a lot of credit for doing the damage that he did in the weekend. Sunday was an impressive day, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he was down 14-6 after Friday, and that's a 5-category swing, and if he takes that kind of loss, he's much closer to that 5-6 threshold that we talk about every single week than sitting fairly comfortably in the 4 spot right now with 3 bottom teams coming up on his schedule. This was the last of his difficult matchups before the playoffs, and the rest of the way he gets James Santangelo, Josh Haber, and Frank. Like, those 3 are gonna be the rest of his schedule, and he's got a very, very easy route to the playoffs here. That being said, those 3 guys have every opportunity to play spoiler. Yep.
Yeah, Joe. There's something about these Sunday things that happen that really change the matchup that I've noticed, and it's either like you're on that end, and I think you've been more on that successful end, to be honest. If you could speak from a more personal standpoint, saying like, "Wow, I got everything I basically needed on Sunday," and I think you've been doing that now through your winning streak. But like I've noticed that like it happens against me a lot, and like for someone like Mike and I have talked about these kinds of things. Like when someone can like pull something out of their butt on Sunday, like a 364 average, a 436 on base percentage, 7 runs, 3 home runs, 14 RBIs.
That was huge
from James McCloskey, and why don't you just throw 3 steals on top of it, 4 walks? It's like, come on, get the hell out of here. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's just, that's really obnoxious. Like,
and you look at...
Okay, fine. He's got a pedestrian type of week. His offense is awesome. But for it all to happen at freaking once, where he basically, like, pulled the lever on the slot machine and 3 cherries popped out, like, that's basically what happened here. And it was just, I could see it like as a really awesome thing. It hasn't happened to me that many times this season. I can think of maybe 2 opponents where I've done it to. But like for the most part, like if you're on the opposite end of that and you're just looking at that, it's just like, come on, I've managed so well this whole freaking week. This should be a big win for me. Like it really should. Like that's garbage. That's I understand there is some skill to it because he actually went in there and made some of these plays. He made some of these pickups, but at the same time, like, how can you have that much bad luck in one day?
Yeah, you look at Mike Haber's team on Sunday, and it was just an absolute disaster when you compare it to what James did. You know, with Mike only hitting 176 with a 256 on base, a homer, and 2 RBIs all day, James was able to change 5 categories in a day. He unties homers, he unties steals like you talked about, he unties saves. He unties saves, which he gets from Taylor Rogers of all people. He flips the RBI category, like you were just about to say. Like, he wins that by, I think it was 12, and he gets 14 on the day. You know,
and the runs. I mean, 7 runs. It could have been. I mean, it could have been 2 or 3 runs. You know, but he had all these bombs too, so he's going to get at least 3 runs.
And walks is another category he got. He got 4 walks that day. Mike only got 2. And he wins it by 1.
Yeah.
So he was down by 1 going into the day and gets exactly what he needs in order to get that category. It was.
Oh my God.
You know, and.
So I like, if anything, like me grabbing Nunez, and then he doesn't have that. I mean, what would that have changed necessarily? I mean, it wouldn't have made a difference in RBIs.
Nope.
It wouldn't have made the difference in home runs.
Nope.
It wouldn't have made the difference in runs.
Nope.
Did he get a walk?
Nope. Nunez went 1 for 3, 2 runs, a homer, 4 RBIs, and a strikeout.
Wow, it actually didn't matter.
It wouldn't have mattered if you grabbed him or not, but, you know.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better, because if I think about, like, oh, James, you know, gets into the 2 spot, and I don't, you know, at the end of the year, and, like, he, you know, you think about, wow, I could have just at least stole that from him, but it looks like it wouldn't have mattered on Sunday too much. It could matter going forward, but, why don't you get into the key players, and we'll break this thing down.
All right, key players for Mike this week. He did win the week, so we'll start with his team. It was Mookie Betts, who hit 320 with a 400 on-base percentage, 9 runs, 5 doubles, a triple, a homer, 3 RBIs, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts. The triple is key. He did win that category by 1. It was one of only 3 offensive categories he won, so we certainly want to highlight that. James McCann was on another planet this week. 435 average, 458 on base percentage, 7 runs, 2 doubles. That's the other triple. 2 homers, 11 RBIs, and 5 strikeouts. And finally, Justin Turner. He was 478 with a 556 on base percentage, 5 runs, 3 homers, 4 RBIs, 4 walks, and 4 strikeouts. Just, you know, 3 incredibly great performances from this team. The unfortunate part is that a lot of his guys just didn't show up this week. You know, Jesus Aguilar didn't hit well. Jordan Alvarez, he had a few homers and walks, but only hit 200. You know, the kid in Milwaukee, Todd Grisham. That's not his name. Trent Grisham. He hit 188. You know, Jock Peterson did not have a hit and was 071 on base this week. Just ugly performance from a lot of his players. And not that Mike had a bad offensive week. He didn't, but because, you know, 43 runs will play, 14 homers will play, 40 RBIs will play. But he just ran into a much stronger offensive team this week.
On one day particular.
Yes, absolutely. Sunday is the key day that matters. Pitching-wise for Mike, Jack Flaherty had a great week. 12 innings, 2 wins, a homer, 4 walks, 12 strikeouts, an 0.75 ERA, and 0.83 WHIP. You know, this guy had a really slow start to the season, but he has come on incredibly strong, man. His last 6 starts, 4 1/3 shutout ball, 7 strikeouts, 6 innings, 2 earned, 9 strikeouts, 7 innings, shutout, 9 strikeouts, 7 innings, 10 strikeouts, shutout ball, 7 innings, shutout ball, 7 strikeouts, 5 innings, 5 strikeouts, 1 earned.
Oh my God, who is this guy? I mean, I know he's like been around for maybe another year since it, but
he was on
incredible kind of run.
He was on my team last year. I picked him up late in the season. He was one of the St. Louis. Like, St. Louis is always rich with pitchers, right? Like, that's just how they've always been. It's just a pipeline of pitchers and outfielders coming through that system. And this is pretty much their next Adam Wainwright, Chris Carpenter, that level of player.
Yeah, was he anointed as this going in, or did they feel like this was kind of a fine, better than he expected? Actually,
he had an incredible season last year. 8-9, had a 3.34 ERA, 182 strikeouts over 151 innings. So he was sort of, but he was not like their top pitching prospect. That is still Alex Reyes, who just can't stay healthy. Right? This kid was initially thought to be like a 3-4 starter in this rotation, and he has just absolutely surpassed all of those metrics, like all of those expectations. And now he's, like I said, the next in the wave of Chris Carpenter, Adam Wainwright, Carlos Martinez, now this guy. Tommy Kahnle gave Mike a really great week. 3 relief appearances, 2 2/3, all clean. 3 strikeouts, a walk, an .075 whip. He did win relief appearances by 1. I highlight the guy with most relief appearances on the team. And finally, Madison Bumgarner, though he sat for the final matchup in Arizona, did give him 7 innings, a win, a solo homer, 9 strikeouts, an .029 whip. The start came at home against Oakland. Oakland has been playing incredibly well lately, and to only give up 1 earned run is pretty huge. You know, Bumgarner is not what he has been in the past. He's up to a 3.72 ERA this year, about a strikeout an inning. His last few starts have been up and down. His start in Colorado gave up 5 earned over 5, but then turned around and gave up 1 earned run over 14 innings against Philly and Oakland at home. So you kind of know what you're getting at this point. He's no longer like the anchor and ace of a rotation, but of a fantasy rotation, that is. But he's a really solid number 2, and pairing him with Aaron Nola and Jack Flaherty and Mike Soroka has really led Mike to the top of the standings this year.
Yeah, and it's really just about when you play these guys, if you're playing them the right times, the right matchups. Mm-hmm. You can't throw maybe Bumgarner every 5 days. He knew it was the right time to sit him on Sunday just for logical reasons, but he played him at the right time, and he didn't even give up a walk, and that ended up being key going forward. And he needed that 7 innings. He needed a deep, good start out of Bumgarner, and he got what he needed. So, I trust that Mike is going to be able to kind of let these guys, like you're talking about, Nola and Soroka, he seems to be aware of when he's going to get the worst performance out of a guy. I don't think you and I have talked about Mike benching a guy and him having a good start yet. So, it seems like he's been pretty consistent.
I would say so.
This is a pretty awesome rotation to go with right now. Especially going forward in our playoffs. Flaherty, he's on a team that's going to be actually playing for something if the Cardinals can continue this run that they're on. Maybe even the Giants do with Bumgarner. I know the Braves are going to be trying to play for the division, and this is all big stuff. I mean, Philly, of course, with Nola, Philly's very much in that wild card race. So not only is it good to have you got pitchers that are really motivated to play big, important starts for their actual teams, not just their fantasy team. Of course, we're just hoping for the best.
Yeah. I mean, you have to have a guy who's on a competing team coming down the stretch. His 5 starter on this team is probably John Means, who plays for a really awful Baltimore team. Who knows what happens there? But it's gonna be one hell of a race here to the end. Mike has put together a hell of a squad, and we'll see what happens. Jumping to James's key players this week, it's more of the same. It's the same guys that keep popping up, and he's put together a hell of an offense. Cody Bellinger, 320 average, 393 on base percentage, 6 runs, a double, 4 homers, 8 RBIs, a steal, 3 walks, and 6 strikeouts. This guy is up to 42 homers and 97 RBIs on the season, and he's chipped in with 10 steals this year. I'm pretty sure this is going to be your National League MVP at this point. He's starting to open up a little bit of a gap between himself and Yelich, and he's well deserving of it. He doesn't seem to be slowing down. He's hitting .317 on the season. He's absolutely the best player in the NL this year. And for James to have gotten him in the third round is an absolute lifesaver, because think about if he went a different direction at that point after drafting Judge and Stanton in the first two.
Yeah, maybe if he goes to a pitcher there instead, and it's a guy that's only going every 5 days, maybe it's a guy that, doesn't necessarily perform to his capability. Starting pitching and relief pitching, mostly relief pitching, has been at just a subpar this season in general. So yeah, maybe this guy is not even in a playoff spot if he doesn't pick Bellinger. I would think he isn't.
Yeah. The other incredible player this week he traded for, that was Jose Ramirez. .348 average, .423 on base percentage, 4 runs, 2 doubles, 4 homers, 10 RBIs, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Jose Ramirez is back, and there's no denying it anymore. He's now a 2020 guy this season. Obviously, when you drafted this guy in the first round, you were expecting 30-30 upside. It's still not impossible for him to hit that, but
sure,
it would take one hell of the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But you know what? You take the 2020 season, and he has absolutely turned it on since James traded for him back in June. And it's certainly helping to carry him the rest of the way here. Getting poor production from Judge when he does, and not really having a third baseman that can really lock down that position. Getting Jose Ramirez has been a lifesaver for him. Finally, I'm going to hit Jonathan Villar, who you said it a lot. He got the 2 steals on Sunday. The guy also hit .333 with a .484 on base, 4 runs, 2 doubles, 2 RBIs, the 2 steals we talked about, 7 walks, 7 strikeouts, and an error. Villar has been another fantastic guy for him. .274 average, 15 homers, 28 steals. He's been the second baseman that James has locked in pretty much every day. He's got 82 runs scored in an awful Orioles lineup.
Yeah, no, he's got the right guy in it, though, and he's going to be, aggressive. He's going to try and take his walks. 7 walks is an awesome amount when you win the category like that. That's really huge. So you mentioned the steals. Pesky guy to have. Tough offense in general. I mean, he's over 500 in most of the categories, right? I mean, he's 12-7 in bombs. He's 10-7 in RBIs. 12-5 in stolen bases, 11-6 in walks, 11-8 in batting average, 12-7 in on-base percentage, 11-5 in doubles, 9-7 in runs. I mean, he's basically on over 500 and significantly over 500 in all these offensive categories. So James is he's slowly throughout the season, just added little pieces, just adding to this puzzle that needs to be all fit together at the right time. And when he's playing the team that he needs to beat, he beats them in these offensive categories. Even when Mike bats a .262, that's not one of the weeks that he had a poor week. And I'm sure that we can go back and look at James's weeks and say, this time he didn't really perform. He batted .240 or he batted .235 this week.
Right.
But this is a week that he needed to bat around 300 just to get over that .262 mark that Mike threw out there, and he doesn't. So it just seems like he plays really well against his opponents offensively. And like you mentioned before, he seems to, if it was the pitching in the beginning of the season that he was trying to pick away at the free agency, then it becomes the hitters that he's just grabbing, and they just seem to be performing. It's not going to work forever, but he seems to be rolling them out there, and they seem to be doing what he needs them to do. So I give him kudos for that. He's been really, if you want to talk about a good manager of the week, this is one that you could argue on a loss can kind of deserve it.
Absolutely. You hit on picking up every single offensive player that James picked up this week gave him at least one hit. Whether it was Brock Holt getting a double or Joe Panic giving him a single, but for the most part, he picked up guys that went off. Justin Smoke with 2 doubles and a homer on Monday. Tom Murphy, the catcher in Seattle, 2 homers on Tuesday. Delino DeShields gave him a triple on Thursday. And
that's ridiculous. I mean, how does he keep doing that? Like, you pick those guys up on the next day, and they're going 0 for 4.
Mm-hmm.
So he keeps on. I don't know what his strategy is. If he's looking lefty righty, is he looking ballpark, is he looking time of day? I don't know what his strategy is, pitching matchup, whatever it is. But he's getting it right, and it might just carry him to the playoffs.
Yeah. Let's jump to his pitchers. Hansel Robles got him another 2 saves, 3 relief appearances, 3 strikeouts, 2 2/3 innings. Did give up a homer, which I'm sure he pointed at as it flew over his head. And a 150 whip, a 6.75 ERA. But he did win saves. It's the only pitching category he won, so I did want to highlight him. Taylor Rogers is the guy who won it for him on Sunday. He gets the save from Minnesota at Texas. 2 innings, 2 relief appearances, all clean, 4 strikeouts, a 2 whip, though. And finally, Sonny Gray gave him probably the best start of the week. 5 innings, a win, 3 walks, 10 strikeouts over 5 innings, shutout ball, and 080 whip. The guy's been a lifesaver for him.
Right. So is it enough, though? Like, I get that his schedule is favorable and he's got a really legit offense, but, like, does he have the pitching to get him to a final? I don't know where you stand. I think we're both kind of in the same boat when it comes to Mike Haber. I think it's just more about where do you think James ends up here?
Well, I mean, he's got the best pitcher that baseball has this year in Hyun-Jin Ryu. But Ryu's starting to cool off. He had a terrible start in Atlanta last time out. Otherwise, he's been ridiculous for his last 6 starts.
Yeah. Maybe one start in Colorado also.
Yeah, those are the only 2 bad starts all season. After that, it's Chris Paddock who might have an innings limit. He certainly has not been pitching well lately. Brad Keller, Sonny Gray, Eduardo Rodriguez. The one key thing is the guy on the DL that's working his way back, and that's Corey Kluber. And if Kluber... Now, I'm looking here. It looks like Kluber was removed after his rehab start on Sunday due to abdominal tightness. If that setback pushes back his return until into the playoffs, that's going to be huge for James because he was staring it down of getting him not this week but next week in week 21. And if he could get a couple of starts there, pairing up Kluber and Ryu, that's a pretty dangerous twosome that you can go into the playoffs with and back it up with those guys I just talked about. Instead, if he's getting...
I mean, it kind of contingent on how Kluber pitches. Like, I get that he's on a good team that's going to score, but, I mean, can we really just assume he just goes out there and just pitches his balls off? Like, I don't necessarily...
No, there is no guarantee. But certainly James bought into, okay, this guy's going to come back, and he's a former Cy Young winner. He sort of has to believe in this guy. And... on paper, it's a smart move. He gets this guy kind of as a really late season acquisition, if you want to look at it that way. Right. He adds this guy to his team. If he's good,
a playoff acquisition.
Exactly. It'll now the rest of the way. These 2 guys do not exactly have a tough schedule. Mike has his brother this week. He faces Frank in week 21 and gets Jimmy Dunlap in week 22. James gets James Santangelo, Josh Haber, Frank in week 22. These 2 guys can kind of coast at this point. They've earned it. James was the best team in the league for a good solid 6 or 8 weeks. Mike has proven to be a juggernaut late here in the season. He has won 6 of his last 7. The only loss coming to Chris Levy in week 17. And he's won those incredibly convincingly more times than not. So
and Chris Levy had to work his push off on the last day and sit David Price in the Boston night game to hold on to walks or else he loses it. So Mike Haber almost won that week as well. I think most of the league, you and me included, I think both of us would like to see James for himself, pull this off. But from the league standpoint, if James Santangelo can spoil James McCloskey, that would be big for the league, and I guess a lot of us are kind of rooting for that as well.
It would be an enormous upset if Santangelo can beat him this week, and it would make things very interesting in that 5-6 spot where it's like it's still a good 5 teams for 2 spots right now, with James up above it, but one loss can drop him right down into the fight. Let's go ahead and jump off of that and move on to the Nisman brothers squaring off. You took on your brother again, and it looks like Ari got the best of you, 10-8 this week, Benji. Close categories this week. Ari won by a triple, an error, 2 ticks on the batting average, and 2 ticks on the whip. You won by an RBI and a loss, and you guys tied in homers given up by a pitcher, walks given up by a pitcher, and strikeouts by a pitcher. Tell me about this week before we go any further, and tell me what it's like facing Ari every year, and this year specifically, getting him twice.
Yeah, never my favorite week. I don't know how he feels about it. I kind of want to be a fly on the wall for how he's reacting to certain things when he looks at his phone or when he's looking at his computer when he's playing against me. Just out of curiosity how he reacts to this matchup. We played each other twice. The first week we tied it up. This one could have gone either way as well. To answer your question, Joe, it's mostly frustration. And it's, besides playing you, this is probably my least favorite matchup all year. It's definitely one that's important to me personally. And when you realize that there are so many little things along the way that could have been done differently, and that would have been a decisive win, and that's not what happened. You see just that it's a game of inches, the ball that gets caught instead of, by an amazing catch instead of just dropping for a base hit is the difference between you losing batting average or winning it. Little things like this. I'll talk about, a little bit later on what things happened, like things that happened on the bench that were rough for me. But just in general, man, to answer your question, it's mostly a good amount of stress. Maybe this year a little bit different because I feel pretty secure in a playoff spot. I really like that number 2 spot just to grab that bye week and be automatically into the semis. But a little less stress just because I felt like I'm still in this thing pretty much. It would take a monumental collapse for me to not make the playoffs. But for me, going through this week in particular, it was also frustrating because I felt like no matter what I did, he was coming back with more. And I'd have a good Monday, and so would he. And I think as we break down this matchup, and you'll see how it seemed like I was having good days. I probably would have beaten a decent amount of managers this week with a lot of my statistics, but not Ari, man. Like, his offense is just a well-oiled machine. And I'm worried for Bobby this week. I'm worried for you in 2 weeks, because if you catch them when they're hot, it's really, really tough to beat, man. It does. I batted .313 this week. Like, to lose,
didn't win.
It's like ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, you drop 19 doubles and still lose to 22. I gave 44 RBIs was barely enough. 15 home runs. I was looking at some of the other people that had like 8 or 9 home runs this week. I'm like, really? Like, this is what I ran into when I had one of my best weeks offensively. This is what I ran into, Joe.
Yeah. And you said a bunch about your bench. I don't see where you had too bad a bench week, but let's go to Ari's team first, because this was, you talk about how good his offense was. Man, it could have been a whole lot worse for you. He went 23 for 8.
I know that he left some stuff on the bench as well, but at the end of the day, like, just look at what he did on Sunday. Just look what he did on Friday. There's just types. It's like, really? Can he start? Like, he would start off 5 for 9 basically every day, Joe.
Yeah. No, he went 23 for 80. That's a .288 batting average. 19 runs, 3 doubles, 2 triples, 5 homers, 17 RBIs, 2 steals, 10 walks, 26 strikeouts, 2 errors. That's all on his bench. And, I mean, we can sit here and talk about Tuesday, which was an absolutely dreadful day for him as far as, leaving stuff on his bench. Ohtani's triple, Matt Beaty's triple, Jose Iglesias' steal. But
none of this mattered.
The only thing that matters is that he left 17 RBIs on the bench and he lost it by 1.
Sure.
That's the one that matters.
And I'm sure he could have dropped them in, but that might have subtracted a triple somewhere,
I mean,
but
there's a ton of spots, right? Like, let's just look at Sunday. Just looking at Sunday. Cole Calhoun, 2 for 4 with a double, a homer, an RBI, and a strikeout on the bench. Randall Grichuk, 1 for 3 in right field. That's a spot, An RBI out of Ian Desmond on Saturday when Brian Reynolds was 0 for 5 with a strikeout in left field. Like, that's all it is.
Hard to bench Brian Reynolds. He was pretty awesome.
Sure, I agree.
Towards the end.
I agree. Ari's entire team only hit 189 on Wednesday. There were points to make it happen.
The one day.
Yeah. The only day where his team didn't hit. Like, his offense played every single day hard as hell. And there was a ton more to be found. But again, it doesn't matter. He very well dominated the offensive categories, with the only exception being walks, and that's a category you're going to have more weeks than not.
Right.
For as far as his moves is concerned, he dropped Kyle Seager the day before his 3-homer day. Could you imagine if he held on to him for one more day and played him? Granted,
sure,
it falls into that logjam with Arenado and Vlad Guerrero, but, imagine if he had played him on the 13th and got that 3-homer day. It would have been ridiculous. Otherwise, there wasn't a whole lot going on. He picked up Juan Lagares early on Sunday and then dropped him. Did Lagares not play? Is that what I missed? Or
I do know he had a day off somewhere in there.
Okay.
But he had a really hot weekend.
Yeah. He also picked up former Mets prospect Rafael Montero, who's going to be in the back end of the Texas bullpen going forward. Just wanted to drop that in there as a throwback to Montero.
That's a guy that I thought was going to be an amazing starter for the Mets, but it's funny that now he actually has a job. How many moves did Ari make this week? I'm pretty sure it was like 9. But I could be wrong.
6.
6?
6. That's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start to see a trend. If we're like in week 20 and like guys are still not making, at least 10 moves a week, we got to really start to analyze what's an appropriate number of moves, Joe, that are the right amount for the week. That'll also work for the playoffs.
Sure.
I know that it's going to 12, but I'm like starting to really consider it the 11 because. And I think I speak for a lot of guys, and we'll get into, the streaming pictures thing that's happened with me. I had to do it on Sunday, and you've done it quite a few times, but it's becoming harder and harder for guys to just get a pitcher when they need some innings. There's just only so much available, and I think, if guys had less moves, you, me, whoever, we wouldn't be, like, hamstringing other teams by just streaming every starter possible, so like not only like will you get the innings, but not this guy can't get a starter either. So like you're kind of playing that strategy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a way to withhold teams from reaching their inning minimum, and like we don't want that. Like we need a plethora of pitching. Like we need guys to be able. Like I understand that sometimes it isn't possible on a Sunday, but like to be able to grab 4 starters on a Sunday because like. You have all these moves. I don't know. I'm speaking out loud, Joe, but it's just it's something that like I do want to evaluate. Like I'm all for like, hey, prepare ahead of time. Like go get your starters on Tuesday for Friday if you feel like you're gonna, have kind of a drought at some point. But like at the same time, there are some things that are just, completely out of your control. Like when, Bobby needs a starter or more starters than he has. But you grab like a bunch of them at 3:02 a.m. So, and you're not the only one. Like Jimmy is up there. You know, there's a lot of guys that are just awake really late at night, or for you it's like a little bit earlier. I understand, but it's almost like there's a monopoly on that time, and then all of a sudden like it becomes so much harder for other teams. So I don't know. It's just something that I guess I'm ranting about. I wanted to talk out loud. Maybe get the conversation started, and we'll go from there and trying to figure out what's the best solution to this. But I do think we might have a little bit of a problem, and I can see it coming in these last couple of weeks where teams are becoming so much more desperate to get in to the playoffs, and like this is when it's going to matter most. Not necessarily in playoffs because teams get locked. There's a lot more available pitchers, but just like these last few weeks now, like I'm starting to notice a little more. So it's just something I want to bring up that we should talk about.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying here. I want to hit on that very point a little bit later in the show when we get to my matchup with James, because that is going to play a lot into what my strategy was going into the weekend. To not to discredit what you're saying, I understand completely, but it's going to play.
It came out now.
Yeah, no, it's going to play a whole lot more in my matchup with James. We'll jump to your bench real quick. You went 3 for 21. That's a 143 batting average with a double, an RBI, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts. Benji, that's as good as you can expect out of your bench, man. Like you can't do anything else there. Tell me.
Right, but I could not pick up Matt Duffy on Sunday just because, like, I wanted to make that play for Monday because I knew Tampa Bay had a game on Monday. But if I'm just like, let me pick him up, but let me play Upton instead, I think 1 for 5 is still better than the 0 for 4. That wins me batting average. Like, little things like that. Like, those offers that are in the lineup saying, like, you know what, this is a day where this guy's going to suck. So why have him in the lineup? He's probably going to maybe get 1 hit or no hits. So, like, I understand it's really, like, in a way kind of risky and kind of maybe a cheap way out for some people when you only play, 6 guys in your lineup. But, there is some times where it is appropriate, And going into the day, dude, and I said to you, I'm going to lose. Like, I understand I have a lead, but, like, I think I'm going to lose today. Why? Because Ari's team is way better than mine offensively. It just is, He just has better hitters that are hitting more consistently day to day, I have a scrappier team, and occasionally 1 or 2 guys get hot, and, they have a couple of big days, but that's about it. Ari's hitters are consistent. I had no doubt that when we were tied in home runs going into Sunday, he was going to win that category. It was very, very low possibility that on a given day, my team hits more home runs than Ari's team. It's just the way our teams are. The matchups, wins and losses go and show that. The totals show that. I'm one of the bottoms in home runs. I'm sure you have it in front of you.
I don't, but we talked about it a couple of weeks back that you only had about 150, 160 home runs on the season at that point.
Right. No, I'm basically dead last. I'm 177. I'm second to last. So I just kind of think I was amazed that I got RBIs, and then he just went crazy with his hitting. I said, you know what? I don't know, man. Like, I could just sit my guys tonight. I could sit Hayward, and I could sit Newman, and maybe, like, I win batting average just by Brian Reynolds being bad. But I decided, what the hell, let me go for it. Maybe 2. And they did almost just enough. I needed 1 more stinking hit or just another, and there was so many, like, it was so close. Kevin Newman he looked like he roped one, but it was definitely just a regular fly ball to left field. Little things that happened along the way, like Sean Newcomb, okay? One thing you didn't mention on the bench is something that I did, I believe it was on Saturday. Sean Newcomb had a pretty decent day. Now, on Friday, he completely shit the bed.
Yes, he did.
And he got the loss. And he threw 16 pitches. Joe, how am I supposed to think that Brian Snitker is going to go back to this guy the next day after that? That almost never happens. Usually, they get given a day off when they have a tough performance. This dude throws a win that would have definitely tied the category or won it. I believe it would have tied the category. And then also, he throws enough strikeouts to, at least probably hold on for me in that category. But at the same time, I don't know if on Sunday I make the pickups that I make on Sunday. And those pickups, although these two pitchers weren't terrific, they didn't get the loss. They got just enough innings for me.
Mm-hmm.
They did, I won. I held on to the walks, and we ended up tying there, and the strikeouts and the home run. So basically, those two pickups for me on Sunday, they kind of saved me.
Yeah. No, that Peter Lambert pickup on Sunday was really dangerous. Seeing that you're throwing a guy in Colorado, an unproven rookie, who's got a 6.55 ERA at this point. It was worse when you picked him up. That was a dangerous pickup. I mean, you really didn't have much to lose as far as ERA or WHIP. Well, you could have improved the WHIP, but this guy could have been bombed.
I think a loss was almost for sure going to happen, and most importantly, the walks, because it said he was so erratic in his last start. And that's basically what Yahoo was saying. He struggled with his control. I'm like, oh, okay, this will just be. But I needed the innings that badly. I needed to figure out a way to hold on to these things. Mm-hmm. And there's no way you can do that when you're looking at the other end and your opponent has the Sunday night pitcher.
Yeah.
And it's such an advantage when you have the Sunday night pitcher because you can just watch and see what happens and then decide accordingly. Ari did me a little bit of a favor by playing Keller on Sunday night.
Yeah.
Because if he doesn't play him, I think I actually lose a couple of categories. So
you lose homers, if he doesn't play him, you would have won home runs and walks given up. You would have won strikeouts. He tied all three.
I would have lost.
You would have lost homers and walks given up. He would have, and you would have won strikeouts. And you would have won. You guys would have tied in losses.
Right. So, I think he would have traded that back, man. I think it ended up hurting him to play him.
Yeah.
I lucked out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'll take it, man. But the Newcomb, benching was very, very frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
On Sunday, flipping that Duffy for Upton was very frustrating. And the most frustrating thing is just your team starts to hit, and you look on the other side, and his team will not stop hitting.
Yeah.
And then finally, the game right before the Sunday night game was a Colorado Rockies game that just went way longer than it was supposed to. Wade Davis was supposed to shut this thing out, so much longer, but then, the Marlins took the lead, and then the Colorado Rockies tied it in extra innings, and then all of a sudden they were playing. It was insane.
It was a ridiculous game. Yeah, that was a really fun game to watch.
Oh my God, it was amazing. And especially I'm excited when I see Arenado, Ari's hitter, hit a home run off me because I say, sweet, I'm off the hook. He can't get the loss anymore, and I don't think I'm going to win that category anyway. So hit as many home runs as you want. But then I was like, oh my God, then another RBI, and Blackmon and Desmond, and it's just if the RBI barrage didn't stop, I think Ari had 11 on the day, and he nearly caught that category. So it's just, I got to tell you.
Yeah, it took Jason Hayward. It took Jason Hayward in the Sunday night game going yard against Mitch Keller for you to get the RBI needed to win that category.
Yeah, I smacked my bed 20 times when it happened. The excitement, man, it was just so huge for that. And then all of a sudden more runs. I was like, wow, I think the loss is going to happen too. And then all of a sudden, you and I were talking about Kimbrel coming into the game. It's well, it doesn't look like he's going to come in the set a 7-0 game. He does come in the game, and then we basically kind of flip a little bit because he gets 2 strikeouts to tie, but he gives up a bomb before he does anything else. So that ties the category. I don't know what's better, if you're better off having a 10-8 loss or having a 11-9 loss. And have 10-8, you would get an extra tie. I don't actually know exactly, Joe, what puts you higher in the standings technically.
I would probably take the extra tie.
Right. It's better to take a less loss.
Yes.
I think losses
are
weighted more heavily than wins.
Well, look at the standings right now, right? So you're 208 wins. I'm at 205 wins, but I'm 7 games behind you because you have 8 more ties than me.
Right. Also the losses. I think losses are weighted pretty heavily.
Yeah, I have 11 more losses because I have fewer ties. You know, those all went to my loss category versus going to my win category. So that's you know.
Oh my God! And a lot of them was you and me. How many I won by one? How many categories?
Yep.
Crazy.
Yep.
All right.
All right. Let's jump to key players. For Ari this week, I mean, you could basically look at his lineup and go pick somebody, but we'll go with JT Realmuto to start. 417 average, 440 on base, 5 runs, 4 doubles, 4 homers, 9 RBIs, a walk, and 5 strikeouts. Nolan Arenado, you hit on earlier. He only hit 200 with a 250 on base, 5 runs, a double, 4 homers, 7 RBIs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Again, Ari's going to go as the Colorado Rockies go. 6 games at home this week. So, finally, Ahmed Rosario, who has been just everything the Mets have hoped for and more this past, 6 weeks now? 417 average, 462 on base, 5 runs, 3 doubles, a triple, 4 RBIs, a steal, a walk, 5 strikeouts. The triple is big because he beat you by 1 there, and he got steals by 3. So I wanted to highlight a guy who was a little bit more on the speed side. Pitching-wise for him, not a whole lot to write home about at the end of the day. It's Ari's pitching staff, but he did win ERA, WHIP, and wins up against you. So we're going to highlight Sam Dyson. 3 relief appearances, a win, 3 innings, 3 strikeouts, a homer, and a walk, 3 ERA, and a 2 WHIP. The win is the one that's important, you know, when you really look at the fact that he beat you 3-2 and wins. Dallas Keuchel gave him another decent start here, 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, 2 walks, nothing earned, 1.17 WHIP. And finally, Anthony DeSclafani, 2 starts, a win, a loss, 9 innings, 3 homers, 5 walks, not good, 7 strikeouts. He had a 7 ERA and a 1.78 WHIP. That's not what I'm pointing this out for. I'm pointing it out for another win. You know, he got the win from DeSclafani, a win from Keller earlier in the week, and the win from Sam Dyson. Those 3 were enough to beat your pitching staff this week.
Right, my atrocious pitching staff. And there's something else that we didn't talk about. I think you mentioned on my bench a couple of errors, but a couple errors that I had in that changed everything. I mean, yes. Trey Turner.
I was about to get there.
Errors in one day. I lose that category by 1. Mm-hmm. If just that doesn't happen, Ari and I tie.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
It's just like little things like that. You think about it, and you're just like, wow, like, that's baseball, man. Just like these little decisions that you make. Trey Turner, sure, I guess that's kind of hard to predict. I knew the errors were close. I liked my chances to at least tie the category. I did not see myself getting 2 in one day with Ari not getting a single one in one day, but again, that's baseball, even more so. That's fantasy baseball. Running into, my pitching was atrocious, so Ari didn't even have to pitch that well, so like if I was going to pitch this atrociously, I had to bring it offensively. Oh wait, I did that, but just not enough.
Yeah.
I mean, Ari, like you mentioned in these key pitchers, there weren't not a ton to write home about. Nice start from Dallas Keuchel, but aside from that, I mean, there's some atrocious starts as well, and I should have been able to at least catch a little bit more of a break, but just too much from him.
Yep. You hit on Trey Turner. He's going to be your first key player of the week. 8 big runs, a double, 2 homers, 9 RBIs, a steal, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. But you hit it. It was 2 errors on Sunday that flipped that stat. And, that's got to be heartbreaking for you.
Yeah, it's the difference between losing, and tying.
Yeah.
That's huge. And that might, loom very largely when you talk about, you made the 3 spot or the 4 spot, and you only missed the 2 spot by, a couple of stats.
Yep.
This happened. And last week against Jason, I lost on-base percentage by a tick. Joe, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, man, you've been dealing with that as well the last couple of weeks, so we'll get into it. I'm just saying, when you think about it, every single week we talk about how I should have just benched this guy on Sunday night, or I should have played this guy instead of, and you're right, and at the end of the day, we can talk about, well, there was good logical reasons why I benched this guy instead of this guy, but you didn't, you know?
Yep.
And that's the reason why you're facing this situation, either on the outside looking in, trying to get in the playoffs, trying to catch that 2 spot so you don't have to play a first-round matchup, whatever it may be, man. Like, it just gets more frustrating and stressful as the weeks go on. And I know I'm speaking to a lot of the guys listening right now when they're in the race and they know, like, every single decision you make, every single freaking day really starts to matter more and more.
Yeah, absolutely. Carlos Santana, once again, has been a lifesaver for you. 462 average, 576 on base, 9 runs, a double, 4 homers, 8 RBIs, 7 walks, and 5 strikeouts. And though you benched him on Sunday, Justin Upton was a really good pickup for you this week. 267 average, 353 on base, 4 runs, 2 homers, 8 RBIs, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. Pitching-wise for you, Benji, it's 2 closers and a starter. We're going to start with Aroldis Chapman, who gave you 4 saves, 4 relief appearances, 4 innings all clean, 6 strikeouts, and an 0.50 whip. Ian Kennedy, 2 innings, a save, a walk, 3 strikeouts, all clean innings, 2 whip, and 2 relief appearances. And finally, who is now probably going forward with Chris Sale on the DL, your team's ace in Masahiro Tanaka, 6 1/3, a win, 2 homers, 2 strikeouts, 2.84 ERA, and 0.63 whip. Seeing Chris Sale go down must be absolutely heartbreaking for you.
You know, Joe, believe it or not, it sucks, but at the same time, the guy really wasn't having that amazing of a year. He can definitely clean up with strikeouts when you start him, but there have been a couple of situations where he kind of burned me. Now, here's the thing. Talk about the Jose Ramirez trade, you know, and Sale was basically the corner piece of that trade. We can throw in how Lugo has been very helpful for me as well. Trinan was dropped today, or yesterday rather. But I'll say that for me, like, this guy got me to where I needed to be. Yeah. You know, I think the trade works because he did have some key starts. So, like, yeah, in that sense, heartbreaking, sure. However, I can't really worry about it, man. Like, and I don't know that he's necessarily going to pitch good the rest of the way if he didn't, you know, get hurt. So I kind of just have to think of it like next man in. Like, yeah. I can definitely still win 3 weeks in a row in the playoffs without Chris Sale.
Sure.
So I just kind of have to think of it like that, man. Like, I'm going to be looking around, trying to find where, you know, these great free agents are, and trying to pick them out of the hat and hope for the best, you know? So I don't doubt that I have the ability to pick up the right guys at the right time to win a championship. Does it hurt? Yeah, but he got me to this spot, man. Like, he got me in this position. It's very, very unlikely that I'm going to actually slip out of this and miss the playoffs just because certain teams are playing against each other in schedules. So, like, I really think just by attrition I kind of win. You know, if I can just grab like 6, 7, maybe 8 stats, we can look at it in a moment on what we think is the right amount of stats you need, how many wins you need to ensure going to the playoffs. But I think I'm just about there. So, like, does it suck? Yeah, sure. But at the same time, man, I can't cry about it. I really can't. I really just got to turn the page, try to win this week, and go from there.
My math says you're going to need 8 wins we have 3 weeks left. So
yeah,
you're going to need
8 wins.
You're going to need 6 wins every week in order to get to the 225 just to get in, right? Just to get in, 6 wins every week. Your schedule's fairly decent. You're going to be facing Mike Sherman this week, which is a dangerous team right now. He's on the come. You've got Uncle Barry and then Andy in the final week. You can certainly grab 6 wins every week off of those guys and not have a problem. What I'd be afraid of...
I thought about, like, my bullpen kind of matches up decently against these teams.
Sure.
Maybe not Andy. I mean, after Andy made that Rafael Iglesias trade, maybe that I'd have to deal with a little bit. Like, that's given that the Reds actually win games in the week that I'm playing them.
Sure.
So, like,
Sure.
there's a lot that's situationally good for me.
Mhm.
Like, we'll talk about, the week 21 matchups where something's got to give, and
Mhm.
one of those guys are going to lose. So, I might not need 6 a week, Joe. I might even need less than that.
Sure.
I might only need 10 or 11 because one team kills another team and just knocks them out. So, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think I'm just in from, hanging in there and having that nice streak during the season. So,
yeah,
I'm not so
there's just
concerned about it.
there's just one thing I do want to point out, and you brought it up in
And
saying.
I do have, and by the way, I wanted to point out something too.
Sure. You mentioned the winning streak, and since it came to an end in Week 15 against James Santangelo, you've only won once since.
Yeah, no, I know. No, I've lost 3 out of 4. I've lost 4 out of 5.
Uh-huh.
I lost 3 in a row, and basically through that stretch because I doubled up Bobby 14-7, but I took like a 13-8 loss there. But since the 14-7, I'm about, I think it's like 5 or 6 under 500. So match that up with the 7 over 500 I got from Bobby. I've kind of went around 500 in the last 4 weeks. I've been doing okay treading water, Joe. But the problem is that I look at the offense and I think, wow, what I put up this week is the best I can do, man.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm 11-8 in runs, sure, but 5-13 in doubles, 6-10 in home runs, 9-9 in RBIs. 9-9 in steals, 12-3 in walks. We know that that's what my team is built on,
Yep.
and 14-5 in strikeouts, 12-5 in errors. That's just luck mostly. But 9-10 in batting average, 11-8 on base percentage. It's basically sub 500, maybe close to 500, man. But I just don't know if, like you and I talked about how I have a pretty good offense here. I don't know. I just don't know, man. It's kind of pedestrian to me, with a good chance of a couple of guys exploding. But besides Carlos Santana, like, that's my best player,
Mm-hmm.
Besides that, what are we really talking about?
Trey
Turner?
Yeah, Trey Turner. I mean, it's those two guys, and
Yeah.
they're gonna be the guys to lead you to the promised land or not. And if they go cold, you're gonna run into a lot of problems.
Yeah, that's why that 2 spot becomes so important. Because if I could just dodge one matchup and only have to win 2 weeks in a row, that would be incredible. And I don't love my chances for that 2 spot because of, as we've talked week by week, man. It seems like every stat is starting to matter more and more, and there's just so many that just get left on the bench, or I just choose not to play them when I should be going for it. Just little things like this add up. But at the end of the day, I got to tip my cap to my brother, who's the better manager, who has a better team, probably has the better team, just had too much tough luck earlier in the season. And it's a shame because I think this is the end of his season, and he knows that as well, as he's still under 500. Too big of a hill to climb, but it should be clear to everyone that this is a very, very dangerous team, a very dangerous manager for you, for Jason Lempert, Jason Ashby in the final week, for Bobby this week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Ari is about as solid offensively as you can ask for, and he's done it all year. 10-8 in runs, 13-6 in doubles, 13-5 in home runs, 10-8 in RBIs, 8-9 in steals, short 5-13 in walks, but 12-7 in strikeouts, 9-7 in errors, 12-7 in batting average, and 9-10 on base. I mean, he's really just come up against his opponents and beat most of them offensively. You included, Joe. So, scary team. Unfortunate how his season unfolded, but on this particular week, not too many teams that were going to beat him, at least offensively.
No. And, I've said it all year. He's stacked his roster with, Colorado Rockies, and they play half their games in the best hitters park in baseball. So it's no surprise that his offense is as strong as it is. Just the pitching has let him down all season, and that's why he's, a couple games under 500 now this deep into the season. From there, we're going to jump off to the matchup. Honestly, the matchup other than the 1-3 matchup that was this week, it was a pretty big matchup in Jason Ashby, Witness Protection, taking on Angels in the Troutfield, Bobby Russo. And Jason puts Bobby down 15-6. You know, this is got to be a scary moment for Bobby because he goes from the cusp of the 7 spot, and with this big loss drops him to the 9 spot. And
heartbreaking weekend.
Yeah.
By the way, we gotta get.
Oh, absolutely, because it was 9-7 coming out of Friday, and it turns into 15-6, and what an incredible weekend it was for Jason. For Jason, who won the week, he won by a run, a triple, an RBI, 3 ticks on the on-base percentage. Bobby wins by 2 errors, a win, a complete game, and 2 relief appearances. They tied in steals. For Jason on his bench, he went 17 for 56. That's a 304 batting average, 7 runs, 4 doubles, 3 homers, 9 RBIs, a steal, which is pretty important considering the tie there, 4 walks, and 14 strikeouts. The steal did come on Sunday. It was, one of those things where you just look at it and go, wow, that really, really sucks to see. It was the young kid in Arizona, Josh Rojas, at home against San Francisco. He went 1 for 2 with an RBI, a steal, 2 walks, and a strikeout. The thing is, I just don't see where you put him into the lineup, because if you're playing him, he's only second and shortstop eligible. If you play him at second, you're sacrificing the Ryan McMahon steal. If you're playing him at short, you're sacrificing the Jorge Polanco triple and 3 RBIs. If you're playing him at utility, which could be the answer, you're sacrificing an 0-for-3 with a run, a walk, and an error from Willy Adames. Errors doesn't change, the walk doesn't change, the run doesn't change. The run sacrifices that category. So, it is what it is, and you miss out on that steal. It certainly sucks for Jason, but there's not a whole lot else he could do, and he won 15-6. So let's not cry too many tears over this.
And he did tie steals very late.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, with the Ryan McMahon steal on Sunday. McMahon stole him a base on Sunday.
I think that's because it went extra innings.
Yeah.
So, oh man, just so heartbreaking. If I was Bobby, I'd be so frustrated because he's just at the same time he's thinking like on that Sunday night, let me play my guys for that night game, and maybe they can grab at least a run. Maybe they can grab at least an RBI. Maybe they can't just like completely ruin it so I can't win on base percentage. It just seems like everything went wrong. I don't even necessarily think it was bad management by Bobby. Like, I don't know. I don't know, because I don't know what I would have done. But it was just horrible luck. And tip your cap to the better man this week, because it looks like Jason is going to the first playoffs. This is a guy that's been in our league since 2004. Missed maybe a couple of years in the middle, but he's one of those founding father types. And Jason, just going to say congratulations now, because I don't think it would require a big collapse, and I get that he's got a tall task this week against you, man, but he's certainly in the driver's seat in a great position.
Yep.
As far as Bobby, I don't know, man. It's going to be a real huge hill to climb right now.
Yeah. Jason's moves this week, nothing really to write home about. He did grab Kyle Seager the day after the 3-homer game. It looks like he's going to be hanging on to him, which I don't blame, to be the backup to Anthony Rendon. Otherwise, he streamed an Eric Fedde start, 6 innings, a win, a 3 ERA, and a 1.33 WHIP. Otherwise, it's business as usual. To answer your question before you even get to it, 9 is the number of moves he made. From there, we'll jump over to Bobby's team. Bobby went 9 for 30 on his bench. That's a 300 batting average. 5 runs, a double, a homer, 9 RBIs, 4 walks, and 4 strikeouts. So the 5 runs would have flipped a category. The 9 RBIs would have flipped a category. And they can basically be given on one day, and it was Tuesday. Jose Osuna went 2 for 4 with a run, a double, and 2 RBIs on the bench. Lorenzo Cain was 0 for 5 with an RBI and a strikeout in utility spot. Brian Dozier 1 for 2 with a run, a homer, an RBI, and a walk on the bench. And Kettle Marte was 0 for 3 with a run, two walks, 2 strikeouts, at second base. Now, I know you're not going to bench Ketel Marte. He's been fantastic. However, he did just lose him, I think, to what's being called a back issue. He's missed 3 of the last 4 starts. So it'll be interesting to see if this is going to require a DL stint at the worst possible time for Bobby. Moves this week for Bobby. He added Albert Pujols, who just didn't do a whole lot of anything for him this week. Added Ozuna that I talked about. Did pick up Yusei Kikuchi for the start on the 17th, which is Saturday. He dropped Will Myers, which I saw the move and I was like, wow, you're finally giving up on Will Myers. And that's a guy he's not having the best of seasons. You know, you kind of looked for this guy to be a 2020 guy in the late rounds with a ton of outfield eligibility and third base eligibility. That's nice. He's just not had a good season. And you pick up a struggling starter like Kikuchi, who has not been good over the last 2 months. All that guy does is go out and throw a complete game shutout with a walk and 8 strikeouts. Like, you couldn't ask for more from that guy. Especially against a Toronto team in Toronto that's pretty dangerous. Their offense is starting to come around with all those young kids. So Bobby ends up...
a good part for him.
Yeah, and Bobby gets the complete game stat. It does win him the wins stat as well. So huge pickup there for him. You talked about Sunday, and Sunday was an incredible day when you look at what happened from both of these guys' perspectives. Jason flipped runs. He won the category by 1, and Sunday outscored Bobby 6-3 in that category. He unties triples to get that category from Jorge Polanco. He flips the RBI category, outscoring Bobby 9-4, winning that category by 1.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Stolen bases, he remains tied. Jason gets Ryan McMahon's steal. Bobby gets Jarrod Dyson's steal. And Jarrod Dyson did not start this game. I'm going to get to Bobby's team on Sunday in a moment. Jason does lose errors because of Willy Adames and Jorge Polanco. So he ends up, getting 2 on Sunday to lose that category. And then Bobby wins complete games. The on-base percentage certainly shifts in Jason's favor because of Sunday's matchup. He had a 366 to Bobby's 345. Jason wins that by 3 ticks.
345 is still not terrible.
No, it's not.
It should.
It's not at all.
Damn.
So let's talk about Bobby's team on Sunday. Bobby went with a short lineup, I think in part due to a lot of injuries, and in part due to, what else are you going to do, right? Mike Trout gets the day off. Jarrod Dyson does not start. Stephen Piscotty is day-to-day with an ankle injury. Ketel Marte, the back injury I talked about. And Lorenzo Cain has an oblique that's kept him out for 2 days. Those 5 guys all do not play except for Jarrod Dyson coming in late on Sunday and getting the steal and the run. On the flip side, he loses Sean Doolittle to the DL. He's still rostering Nick Markakis. He's got a couple of relievers, like he picked up Keone Kela to try to get a relief appearance, and he won that category by 2 anyway. So my question is he
was trying to go for the inning there. Just somehow to grab another inning because he was so damn close in innings pitched as well.
Yeah. To see the short lineup and how many offensive categories Bobby lost by only 1 or, tied steals, the on-base percentage by 3 ticks, maybe pitchers and he went for it with Adam Frazier, right? He went for it with Adam Frazier. Yeah. He picked him up, plugged him into the lineup late. The guy gives him an 0-for-4 in the night game.
Yeah, and Josh Bell didn't help much either. They told him in the 7th or 8th inning because they say, "What the hell? Let's rest you. We don't have to give you this extra at bat."
Yep.
It's just it couldn't have gotten worse.
Yeah.
For him. You know, it seemed like one thing after another. Like you said, from the Polanco triple
Yes.
to the McMahon late in the Colorado game getting a stolen base where the game should have been over a long time ago. You know, just that how many RBIs? I mean, he required so many RBIs for Jason to win it by one.
That triple.
It's just tough.
That triple that we talked about. That triple came with the bases loaded.
Oh God! So it changes on base percentage, it changes RBIs, it changes everything.
Yeah, it flips 3 categories. It ties, it unties triples. It breaks Bobby's back with RBIs. It gives him on base percentage, and Jorge Polanco scored on the next play. That's your run.
Oh my God!
That's your run. That one at bat gives him 4 categories. Just absolutely insane. Insane. We'll jump to key players this week. For Jason, we'll start with Ryan McMahon. Ryan McMahon had a great week at .316 average, a .409 on base percentage, 4 runs, a double, 4 homers, 5 RBIs, and the steal that tied up the score there, 3 walks and 8 strikeouts. He led the team in home runs. I get that the team didn't win home runs, but for a team that was, you know, kind of struggling for home runs this week, to not have McMahon in the lineup would have been disastrous. And this was the guy that he got in a trade from Frank. I think that was for Jake Odorizzi. So fantastic pickup there. Victor Robles gave him a great week as well. .480 average, 500 on base, 8 runs, 5 doubles, a homer, 5 RBIs, 2 steals, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. Again, those are the other 2 steals that he needed in order to tie this category. And finally, we talked about Jorge Polanco, and here he is. .333 average, 419 on base, 4 runs, a double, a triple, 6 RBIs, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts. But here's the big thing that's huge here. Polanco had 5 errors this week. That has to be a record. Like, I know we don't count that as a record, but like, to see 5 errors from a guy in 1 week, that is insane. You know, the rest of the team only had 3, and he had 2, I think, on Sunday. 1 from Polanco and 1 from Willy Adames. So if he doesn't play Polanco, it costs him 4 categories, but Polanco himself cost him 1 category.
Sure, but, you know, you can't look at it like that. He was thinking at the time, you know, if I just have one hot day offensively, I can really run away with this thing. And that's what happened, you know. And fortunately, his ERA has been so solid through this, you know, that, you know, all he needed was a pretty good, you know, day offensively, and they carried him, you know. And unfortunately, Bobby had to deal with, just like Jason's team, doing everything basically right on both sides of the ball all in 1 week. Besides the one thing was defense. You know, Jason's team is he's pretty damn solid, you know, and he's got a .270 batting average all season. Like, that plays pretty well against most teams, and Bobby is right at the bottom with a .256 batting average this year. So it goes to show right now, like, the better team just won, you know, and it stinks when you lose by, like, when the score does not show how damn close this matchup was. This was an extremely close matchup, and, you know, if they play against each other on Monday, maybe Bobby just flips them all back. Right. You know, like, that's, like, if you play an 8th day of this matchup, like, that's how damn close it is. But at the end of the day, like, this is what happened, and the better team showed up on Sunday and did what they were supposed to do. They took care of business, and now I just wonder what we're talking about as far as, like, what Bobby can basically do to save his season somehow.
We'll see. We'll get to that in a moment. For Jason's pitching, 3 saves out of Mark Melancon is huge out of 4 relief appearances. 5 strikeouts, 3 2/3 innings, .491 ERA, 136 WHIP. When was this guy anointed the Braves closer? Like, they traded for Shane Green.
They were going for a lot of different things, and who's to say that he is? You know, there have been so many guys now that have jumped in there and done it. So it might be situational for Snitker. If he feels like in the 7th inning, that's when he needs Melanson to get this righty out, like that's when he's going to use him. So I don't know that there's necessarily a specific guy that's been anointed the closer necessarily. I could be wrong. That might be a question for Frank.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't know how this guy, ends up being. This could be a league winner if he ends up continuing to get saves at this rate. Like, he's gotten 3 of the last 4 save opportunities he's converted.
Jason's got a good bullpen now.
Yeah.
He built it throughout the year. And it's the one team that I say in the playoffs. There's 2 teams I want to face. It's you and it's Jason. And I don't think my team matches up well against you. And we just talk about how I tend to, at least recently, manage terribly against you. And then Jason's pitching. I just don't match up at all with his pitching. Because the one strength that I really have, my bullpen, is just as good.
Yeah.
So, it's just one team that I think I have to stay away from in the bracket.
Yeah, Kirby Yates is another great guy for Jason this week. 4 relief appearances, 2 saves, 3 1/3, 6 strikeouts, and 0.30 WHIP. Everything was clean. And finally, Jose Quintana gave him 13 innings, a win, 21 strikeouts, a homer, a walk, an 0.69 ERA, and 0.85 WHIP. Just a ridiculous pair of starts for Quintana. Obviously, the Sunday night start in Pittsburgh, and then the earlier start in the week, 6 innings, 14 strikeouts against Philadelphia. Just lights out week from Quintana, who carried the pitching. And that's not to discredit Ryan Yarborough, who had 6 1/3 with 10 strikeouts and shutout ball. Like, that dude killed you.
Yeah. Start. I mean, that's just really impressive what that guy is doing the last couple of starts now. What a find for Jason. If he's I've never even heard of this guy, basically. I know he pitched a little bit for the Rays last year as well, but my God, 10 strikeouts in 6 innings. Are you kidding me?
Amazing. For Bobby offensively, Nick Ahmed is a great find for him recently. 4.23 average, 4.64 on base, 5 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 4 homers, 11 RBIs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, and an error. Bobby only picked this guy up a couple of weeks ago. Like, he only picked him up 15 days ago. So 2 weeks ago he picked him up. And he's just absolutely been on a tear since then. Matt Chapman had a good week for him, despite the 0 for 5 on Sunday. The 0 for 5 on Sunday 0 for 4 with a strikeout, was really disappointing considering the on-base percentage loss there. But otherwise, this guy's been good for him now. 4.17 average, 4.81 on base, 8 runs, 3 doubles, 4 homers, 5 RBIs, a walk, 5 strikeouts, and an error. He traded away Corey Kluber to get this guy. He had to shore up his third base spot for, I guess, about a month. The guy has been ice cold for him. It looks like he's finally turning this thing around, though. So it's good to see that happening for him. Finally, Brian Dozier. 750 average, 800 on base, 2 runs, 2 homers, 4 RBIs, and a walk. I highlight him because of the home runs. He won home runs by 7. Dozier did have 2. Josh Bell had 2, but he only hit 190. Mike Trout did Mike Trout things, 8 runs, a steal, and 8 walks with 2 homers. Sometimes you just want to highlight a different guy than Mike Trout every week on Bobby's team. Pitching-wise, we talked about Yusei Kikuchi, the complete game, 8 strikeouts at .33 WHIP. Junior Guerra, who he picked up, 3 relief appearances, 2 wins over 4 innings, 3 strikeouts, a 2.25 ERA, and a 1 WHIP. And finally, Max Fried, 11 innings, a win, 12 strikeouts, a 3.27 ERA, a 1.82 WHIP.
Wow.
Yeah. We want to talk more, I assume, about what's going to happen to Bobby going forward and what he can do.
Yeah, both of them. I guess.
Jason, you talked about it. Jason kind of solidified his spot here with this big win. We talk about getting a big lopsided win late in the season. Jason has now put himself in the 3 spot ahead of James McCloskey. The rest of Jason's schedule is me, James Santangelo, and Ari going forward. The guys won 5 in a row, 7 of the last 8. my hat's off to him. You know, I thought he was going to start slipping a few weeks back when he lost to Josh Haber and narrowly got by Frank. You know, but he's just continued to clip these guys off of his schedule, and now he faces off with me. And, you know, if he does the same thing to me that he did to Bobby, he's going to ruin my season too. So
yeah, this is a premier matchup against you now because like all hands are on deck. He's basically solidified himself, but a lopsided win from you to him, and all of a sudden we're talking about the same thing that now he's in a must win.
Yeah.
So like he's not in a must win right now.
No.
He's in a must not get killed. You know, but
and he can take it
about how strong his pitching has been, and he's got a 3.88 ERA. That's third in our league, and that's carried through this winning streak that you mentioned. So, to me, when your win-loss is 92 and 75 with your pitching, and you got a 3.82 WHIP, 3.88 ERA rather, then it's gonna compete with most teams. And then all you got to do is just hit enough because you're gonna win a lot of the pitching categories every single week.
Sure.
So I don't see much of that stopping. I know you play a very different strategy than him. So, like, it's going to be interesting to see, like, how your managerial skills do against his. You had his number the first time you guys faced, but these are very different teams now.
Oh, yeah.
So, I think as far as he goes, yeah, probably in the playoffs. Can't get killed right now. From my perspective, and I think a lot of the league, I think most of them are just rooting for him to beat you, Joe, because it's just a better chance for them to get in.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm kind of hoping for a slight win from you, just to keep him a little further away from that 2 spot for me, so you could actually end up doing me a little bit of a favor. But at the end of the day, I don't know what's going to happen in the final 2 weeks, so I just got to do what I have to do.
Yeah.
But right now, he's looking great. The team itself, top to bottom, pitching, hitting, he's got good stars that we just mentioned with his key players. But what about Bobby?
See, Bobby is an interesting case, right? So he's lost Lorenzo Cain. He's got Ketel Marte day-to-day. Garrett Cole is day-to-day with a neck injury. He lost Sean Doolittle to the DL. He's still holding on to Yanni Chirinos and Nick Markakis on the DL. Like, this team is hurting, and they're hurting at the wrong time. You know, in fact, breaking news, Brian Dozier just went on the paternity list. So he's off to have a baby for a few days. He's not going to be in the lineup. So, like, Bobby's losing guys at the wrong time of the season. And they're guys that, like, he's relied on a lot this year. And to keep losing guy after guy after guy, you have to try to backfill them with guys, but you're not going to find the production that you will for a Lorenzo Cain or for, you know, a Ketel Marte, you know, a breakout guy like that.
Yeah, no, you're right. And thank goodness he made that Matt Chapman move because, I mean, where would his offense be if he at least didn't have this one other guy? And I realize he hasn't been terrific since he's gotten him, but it's just at least the guy that you know is starting every day. He plays on the Oakland Athletics. They're going for that wild card spot. So, like, he is going to have some big at-bats. He is going to hit some home runs for him. So at least he has that. But you kind of nailed it on the head a few weeks ago when you made a little prediction that as you, myself, Jason, and Bobby go through this round-robin bracket kind of thing, at the end of it, one of us
is out.
Now, if Bobby loses this week while you're playing Jason, that's the final leg of this round robin is you playing Jason. If Bobby loses, he's definitely out. But as of right now, it looks like your prediction was right. And I thought at the time, I was like, yeah, but if we all go around 500 with each other, like, we might keep ourselves in. But this lopsided loss that Bobby just took, like, might prove your prediction, in theory, correct, just because right now he's very much on the outside looking in and needs some kind of a miracle.
Yeah, I mean, you beat Bobby 14-7 in week 16. You know, I beat him 10-9. Jason just beat him 15-6. That's it. Like, one of us was going to get knocked out in this round robin. Like, if we all went 11-9 or 10-9,
500 in those 3.
Yeah,
so it's like 17 under 500 in those 3 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, he got back a lot of the stats that he lost to you in a win over James Santangelo the following week.
Right.
But this just absolutely buries him. You know, he now gets Ari, who's a strong team that it's going to be an interesting matchup because Bobby does have a good offense. The question is that offense going to hit this week? You know, is Josh Bell going to come to play? Is Ketel Marte going to be healthy? Is Matt Chapman going to continue this hot streak? You know, there's a lot to ask of that offense this week. And then he gets Mike Sherman, who's right.
You can't expect Mike Trout to do
Yeah, you can't expect Mike Trout to be otherworldly every week. You know, after that he gets Mike Sherman, who's right there with him, who's coming on strong and looking to play spoiler and get everybody else out of his way so he can get into the playoffs. That's going to be a huge matchup. And we've been saying it for weeks now. He finishes the season with Uncle Barry. If it comes down to that one, Uncle Barry's going to play his ass off to keep Bobby out.
Yeah, Barry's a possible trap, just like Frank against James McCloskey in last week is a possible trap. Like, there's a certain guys you don't want to face in certain weeks, and sometimes it's those teams at the bottom. I wish Bobby luck. I think it would be extremely exciting if he can somehow beat Ari, and I'll say it, if Michael Sherman beats me, you know, and those two teams right now in the standing, they have different records, but they're the same amount of games out of the 6th spot. So both of them win and then have to play each other next week. That's just going to be awesome. That would be fantastic.
That would be an absolutely wonderful thing to have happen. And even if Bobby goes 500 and you and Jason go 500 and they're relatively close, you know, or I'm sorry, Mike Sherman goes 500. Like if those two guys go 500, because they're tied right now. They're literally in a dead heat. 23 games back in 8th and 9th. You know, if those two guys go 500 and Frank plays spoiler against Chris Levy this week, you know, all of a sudden, Bobby has to root for the guy who beat him to start this kind of skid he's been on. Because ever since Bobby lost to Frank back in week 13, he's only won twice. He lost to Frank, Jimmy. He beat Nick Homan. He lost to you. He beat James Santangelo. He lost to me. And now he's lost to Jason. That is 5 of his last 7 he's lost.
Yeah, it's a tough stretch, man. And it's mostly been his offense really not performing.
Exactly.
It's when you're going to play Ari right now, we just hit 318, you know, and I don't know how many of the games are in Colorado this week. I guess that's something we can find out. I think you're hoping that there are this week and not next week because you got to play Ari next week. So that might be a big thing because, like you said, you know, those Colorado players playing in Colorado, it's tough to get through that. It was just so frustrating for me. And I told Bobby yesterday, I said, "Man, have fun with this offense next week because I don't know what to do." I basically put up, Joe, the best offensive week my team could put up, and it wasn't enough to meet most of Ari's numbers. I got the walks, the on-base percentage, somehow RBIs, sure, but that was about it, you know, and I had to just play my butt off with managing for innings pitch and strikeouts just to kind of catch up with Ari. So Ari's I get that Ari kind of realizes now it's too little too late, but that's not going to stop Ari from playing. You know, Ari's still going to play these last 3 weeks. He wants to ruin somebody's season, I know that, and even though he's a very, very busy man, he loves to play, so he's going to come to play, and Bobby's just got to bring it, and it's just going to come down to don't leave any shit on your bench. You know, don't pick up a stupid starter. Don't make the wrong pickup with reliever roulette, as Bobby would say, and just hope for the best, man. Get a win and move on. That's all you can do. Yep. Play and win every day. Win Monday. If you win Monday, go for Tuesday. Just try to win every day. The same way a team towards the end of the season, going for a race, they try and win and compete on every single pitch. You know, and you got to hang on every pitch because every single one is going to matter. Just like every pickup and every decision Bobby makes right now, playing or benching is going to make a humongous difference.
That is as crystal clear as you can make it, Benny. Great little piece there. You had asked about the Colorado Rockies schedule. They play every day between now and September 1st. That is, actually, it's all the way to September 4th. They don't have another day off until September 5th. So, 7 games this week, all on the road. at the Diamondbacks, at St. Louis.
Oh, wow, Joe.
Next week, 7 games, all at home.
Oh, man, Joe.
One against the Braves.
That's going to be tough, man, but it's going to, you know what, man? It's going to prove what your team is that week. It really will.
Yep. They get 1 against the Braves as a makeup day from a rain out, 2 against the Red Sox, and then 4 against the Pirates. That's the matchups for next week.
It's a big break for Bobby, and I'm wondering myself, if Bobby's team can do this, he should be able to do it this week, because, he's getting at least that kind of break that the Rockies don't have to play in Coors. So, at least Bobby has that. If you can't even beat Ari at that point, maybe Bobby's team really didn't deserve to be in it this year.
Right, and we'll see. This is must win for Bobby, no doubt about it. With that, we will jump over to my matchup with James Santangelo. I took down an 11-9 win here. Close categories this week. I win by a win, 2 saves, .12 ERA, and 5 ticks on the whip. He wins by 2 triples, a steal, an error, 1 tick on the batting average, and 20 points on the on-base percentage, 2 walks given up by a pitcher, and we tied in relief appearances. For me this week, I went 14 for 33 on my bench. That's a .424 batting average, and I'll get to why in a minute. It really frustrates the fucking balls out of me, but 9 runs, 4 doubles, a triple, 3 homers, 8 RBIs, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts, and 2 errors. The rest of that doesn't matter, but what really matters is the .424 batting average, the 14 for 33, when I lose fucking average by 1 tick, and I watch a guy like Kevin fucking Pillar. I just didn't know what the fuck to do with this guy this week. He goes 2 for 4 on Tuesday, he goes 2 for 4 on fucking Friday, and 5 for 5 on Saturday. I watched this dude tear it up, and I'm watching Eloy Jimenez go 0 for 4 with a strikeout, Oscar Mercado 1 for 5 with 3 strikeouts, and Brian Anderson 1 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. I was so mad. So, Sunday, here I come. I need the average. I'm going to play him. He goes 0 for 4. Eloy Jimenez goes 2 for 4 with a triple and a homer. So frustrating. So frustrating because that was.
When it's that close, man, like I said, I lost by 2 ticks, so I'm right there. You can just overanalyze just all of it, but I know that you're going to say there were totally too many opportunities for you to win batting average if you just bench this guy and play this guy.
Yes. It was one guy. It was Kevin Pillar. I needed to play him this week.
A lot of these pitching categories, Joe, because you could have very easily lost this matchup if your pitching failed you, because it's not like James pitched badly, you know. So to me, I feel like this is. I know you feel like you could have beaten this team better, but you took care of business, and it could have been worse.
Yeah, no, I feel like this was so. After Friday, it was 14-7, and I'm like, this is my blowout win. This is going to anchor me into the playoffs. I needed to get this, and I just watched it whittle away because I played. My pitching was fantastic for the vast majority of the week. I got a bad start from Tyler Beatty, but a great stream of Homer Bailey and Dylan Peters. I got a decent start out of Spencer Turnbull. I thought Jonathan Loaizaga was going to be a great play, going up against Cleveland. I watched Chad Green give up 5 runs in the first, and I'm like, okay, no pressure. There's no pressure there. And the guy gives up 2 homers over 2 2/3. Does give me 4 strikeouts, and that's nice. But just did not get what I wanted out of my pitching, if I'm completely honest. And as long as we're on the topic of my pitching, if you look at my moves for the week, I took a whole bunch of pitchers toward the end of the week with absolutely zero intention of playing them. And this goes back to your piece earlier about innings limit, moves, and guys trying to get to the 37. We go into Sunday and James is only at about 32 innings. And I have the advantage of being on the West Coast, so it's only midnight when the day flips over on Yahoo, rather than it being 3 in the morning on the East Coast. I grab CC Sabathia, I grab Dylan Cease, I grab Glenn Sparkman, and I grab Jason Vargas the day before. That's 4 starters all going on Sunday. Had no intention of playing them because I wanted to try to find a way for James to not make that 37.
But you knew on Sunday that he had Eovaldi. You knew on Sunday he had
So,
no starters. So
Eovaldi I thought was going to be a reliever, and when they announced he was going to be starting, that's on me for doing this, right? As soon as he becomes the starter for Sunday, I should have not played this way. However, I saw he had Joey Lucchesi, and Lucchesi would have needed to give him somewhere in the neighborhood of about 5 or 6 innings in order to get over the threshold. And, the guy's been decent for him, but, is he's usually right around that. Whether it's 5 innings, 5 1/3, 5, 4 1/3, 6, 5 2/3, like it was right there. So, if he has a bad start, maybe he only goes 3. Maybe he only goes 3 2/3. And it's lining up that I might be able to snipe this, get him under the 37 for the week, and end up just blowing him out. And I would take that. Despite what you said earlier, maybe it's a bad way of playing the game, and I'm like, I just did this. I just tried to get this done. At the end of the day, he gets it by 5 innings, right? He ends up getting Eovaldi in there, who gives him 2 2/3.
He went with relievers. He picked up Compash. I mean, actually, the move that he could get was picking up this guy on the Rays, because that ties relief appearances.
Right.
Besides Freddie Peralta to get dropped, it was the right decision.
And Lucchesi has a good start. He goes 6 innings. So, I mean, I was banking on Philly hitting him better, and they didn't. So, I mean, at the end of the day, he gets where he needs to go. But I don't think this is a bad strategy. I don't think this was a bad strategy.
No. I'm not saying the strategy is a bad strategy. I'm wondering if it's like a flaw in our league that we need to evaluate. Because, I understand that, James should be more on top of it. And, he hasn't this year. And there have been, if there's someone that's going to miss his minimum this year, it's going to be James.
It's this guy, right?
Happen.
Yeah.
It could very well happen this week against McCloskey. It could very well happen against Jason Ashby. Those are the final 2 weeks where he's actually playing someone in the race that sets up 22, him and Josh Haber. That's the matchup of 2 teams that don't really check. So it's possible it happens on the final week against Josh. But, I see what you're saying, man. But, at the same time, you could make those decisions ahead of time and still not end up with a minimum and still get blocked, and there's not sometimes, and Uncle Barry even mentioned this, but on Wednesday, I don't want to pick Kansas City's number 3 against Chicago because, I only have 2 or 3 guys that are going, once a week, and it's going to be a lot harder to get that minimum when you don't have your pitcher going twice a week. So, you have to go into free agency. That's fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the matchups aren't really always there, and it's just it seems like on Saturday and Sunday, it seems like it's sort of monopolized. I'm not saying it's a bad strategy. I'm not saying it's going to hurt you. I'm just saying, it's just something that I'm wondering is a flaw of the league. And I'm wondering, maybe if we go down to 11 moves, you're not able to make as many moves like that. And if you're going to make them at the end of the week, then you're going to suffer in the middle of the week. Something like that. Because at some point, you're going to say, you know what, I can't use a move here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there was plenty of moments where I wanted to do something else, and as the week continued, I just kept seeing James is not pitching he's not getting these innings. And as the week developed, I kept seeing this okay, I'm not going to have to throw my 70 or 80 innings that I usually do. I can back it off and save these moves for Sunday, and I had this plan since about Friday. Where I'm
right.
Okay.
Yeah, no, and it's a typical plan from you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, ordinarily this
free
was...
agent pool, you see a ton of guys, but when everyone looks at it after you, they don't see a ton of guys. You understand?
Right. Well, that was the point. That was the point, right? I see what James is doing, and I see that he's not throwing his guys, and I'm going, okay, Sunday, I'm going to pick up as many guys as I have moves left. And it was 4. It was, well, I mean, Jason Vargas I picked up the night before, but regardless, like, I picked up 4 guys with every intention of I'm not starting any single one of these guys. I'm just blocking him from picking up a pitcher. And I know guys like Mike Haber or you or, Jimmy Dunlap or, whoever it is going to come and pick up starters too. So I know there's going to be a shortage there for him,
Sure, but there's less of a shortage maybe if there are less. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And now, if I can get on one thing before, I didn't mean to cut you off, Joe, but I just want to get on one thing and then we'll talk about this and everything else. But I didn't join talking to you on this podcast until maybe like week 6 or something.
Yeah.
And on week 3, you talked about the insistent, and now I still hear you out on the complete game thing. You're insistent on quality starts.
Yes.
Do you think now, after seeing how much streaming of starting pitching is already done and how little availability there is, can you sit there and still tell me that quality starts would work this week?
Yes.
No, that's not right, Joe. It just isn't. You got to think of it this way, man. Pitching still wins. You're going to add another starting pitching stat. That makes no sense.
Ben, you're the one who's standing there saying that you're not going to have as many starters at the end of the week, and you're trying to mitigate that problem. But why not make that more valuable then?
Is going to help that or hurt that?
No, you're saying that you're trying to alleviate the problem of somebody on a Sunday not being able to pick up a guy to start because of the fact that so many people are doing it on Sunday. You have so many moves available. Well, okay, fine. So then that means you're watering down the idea that these starters are so valuable. You're going to water it down and make them more available on a Sunday, mitigate that, and even that out.
In general, there isn't a lot in the pool there most of the time. Sure, maybe a little bit more in the middle of the week, but dude, I do not think adding a starting pitching set helps this issue. It doesn't at all. It makes it way worse.
I don't see how, because you're taking away, in theory, you're taking away complete games and changing it for quality starts. It's a starting pitcher stat for a starting pitcher stat. And when you've got this many...
Complete games is a throwaway, dude. You've done it before, but most people are not picking up starters to go for a complete game. People are going to pick up starters to go for quality starts. So much more than complete games, and you know that's true.
And what's the problem with that?
That's an issue because there's less starting pitching available. If you're going to add more importance to starting pitching, you just up the innings. You don't add another stat. That makes no sense.
If there's less available, you make it more valuable.
No, man, that won't do it. You'll just have more people streaming it all the time.
Where's the problem there? Because you're lowering the number of moves. So the value on using a move to stream a guy for a quality start goes up. This is exactly what you want to do.
No, I don't want to do that, dude. There's already a reason to stream. There's already a reason, right? You do it all the time. You need more of a reason to stream? Come on, man. Think of it that way.
You're expanding our rosters next year.
Joe, you're already going for innings every week. You're already going for strikeouts. You're saying, what the hell? Maybe I lose ERA. Maybe I lose whip. Maybe I lose home runs. Well, I'll still go for it. I'll still maybe get the win. I'll still maybe get all these strikeouts. You're going to add another stat on top that you can go for like that? I don't think that makes any sense.
And at the same time, you can go for complete games. There's reasons I have guys like Verlander and Bauer on my team.
Come on. Don't act like it's the same thing as going for quality starts. Do not act like that streaming is the same. Do not. They're not. No one is going to tell you that you got more of a chance at getting a complete game when you stream than getting a quality start. It's not even fucking close.
No, I don't disagree with you there. However,
okay, but that's the whole thing.
However, you just said that fucking category is a throwaway category. Why have a throwaway category in this league?
We're not talking about that right now. We can talk about that another time. We're just talking about quality starts. You want to talk about throwaway categories? There's a couple in our league, like triple, like errors. The things that you don't really manage against. It's just a way to say, like, you hit the jackpot when you throw the right starter. It's so lucky. It's so up in the air, especially in 2019. But quality starts, they come a dime a dozen. They always come. You don't want something that's going to be coming so regularly that you can just jump and grab whenever you want it.
How many quality starts do you think I streamed this week?
That's not the point.
Yes, it is. That's exactly the argument you're making.
A bunch of other times when you streamed a ton of them.
That's the argument you're making. You're making the argument that, Joe's going to stream a bunch of guys to get innings and strikeouts, and now you're gonna add quality starts, so he's going to do that. How many quality starts did I stream this week, Benji?
Joe, what happens more often, a win or a quality start?
You're usually correlated, but a quality start can come when no decision happens.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's just more likely to happen, dude. It's just something that's way more likely, that happens more frequently, that you can just go and peel and go and get. And it's, as a result, less people
You can't just guarantee that a quality start's going to happen.
Look, listen, dude, we don't have to agree on it. It's a healthy argument,
yeah.
But, like, I just think we're on way different ends of it.
Absolutely. It's a difference in philosophy, and you know, it shows in our roster construction as well, and how we manage, right? Like,
right.
It just is. Yeah, we could sit here and argue this all day. Let's not. Let's go to James's team. He went 4 for 18 on his bench. It's a .222 batting average, a run, a double, a homer, 3 RBIs, 5 walks, 8 strikeouts, and an error. The error is the only thing that really matters, but at the end of the day, you're not going to manage against errors because it's a throwaway category. His entire team hit 176 on Wednesday and 182 on Thursday, and he still beat me by a fucking tick in batting average. That angers me. Saturday, Matt Carpenter went 1 for 2 with a run, a homer, an RBI, and 2 walks on his bench. D. Gordon was 1 for 3 with a walk at second base. Like, not a whole lot to write home about here.
Yeah, and I know the Matt Carpenter benching frustrated him, but it didn't seem to really matter.
It didn't matter. Yeah, it didn't matter. He did stream Michael Pineda, 5 innings, a win, a homer, a walk, 6 strikeouts, a 5.40 ERA, a 1.40 WHIP. Wasn't a great start, but at the end of the day, those 5 innings are the difference between him making and not making the minimum.
He needed at some point a stream of starter during the week, or he was in trouble.
Yeah. He did add Freddie Peralta, who was just a fucking disaster for him. 4 earned, a homer and a walk without recording an out. That's the difference in the ERA and WHIP right there. That's where it is. And it's disappointing for me because, again, I came into the weekend with a 14-7 lead, felt like I was in a good position to get really healthy. I'll take another win. This is my 3rd win in a row.
Yeah.
You know, this one's 11-9. The last 2 were 10-9. I'll take them because I need them right now, especially after the big loss I took, a few weeks back to Jimmy. Right. You know, without that loss, I'm in a much better spot than I am now. But I'll take the wins. I'll get healthy. And, I've got the final 3 weeks. It's a tough schedule. It's Jason, it's Ari, and it's Mike Sherman. Those 3 weeks are going to be rough. I'm going to have to earn my, I think it's like 7th or 8th consecutive playoff appearance. We'll see if it happens.
Do you think that now, you look at all the decisions you made with, like, streaming and deciding to sit just to block, that maybe one of those moves should have been used towards a reliever, maybe even 2 of them, just because, like, now I see where you're coming from if your thought process is saying, like, James rarely wins this category. He doesn't really go for it, and he didn't really to an extent. He did he picked up Posh, and that ended up being big, and Freddie Peralta, that was the double-edged sword of it. But at the same time, when you see that relief appearances are tied and a lot of your moves are used on guys that you're not even going to play, that maybe a reliever should have been thrown in for one of them at least.
Yes, because, and here's the big thing, I lost Scott Oberg on Sunday. After I made these moves, it's announced that Oberg has a blood clot in his arm. He's done for the season. So had I held back one move, I would have dropped Oberg and been able to pick up a reliever, and hopefully that guy gets in and I win that stat. I can't foresee Scott Oberg coming down with a blood clot in his arm. So,
Right.
And he's a closer. Zach Britton's fantastic. Bass, Jimenez, and Leclerc are all closers. I'm not going to bench one of those guys. Do I go out and get a guy like Robert Stevenson or one of those starters who has a ton of relief appearances? Yeah, maybe. But again, I can't foresee Oberg going down like that. So.
You thought he was going to come in yesterday.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Let's go to key players. This week, I had a fantastic week from Juan Soto. 261 average, 320 on base, 6 runs, 4 homers, 6 RBIs, 2 steals, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. Francisco Lindor gave me a great week as well. 281 average, 324 on base, 6 runs, 3 doubles, a homer, 5 RBIs, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts. And finally, Jose Abreu, 296 average, 333 on base, 6 runs, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, a walk, 7 strikeouts, and an error. My team hit. Tommy Pham gave me a good week too, and Oscar Mercado, when I played him, did well. It's disappointing. I won the majority of offensive categories. It's disappointing that I drop average like I did. The steals is also rather disappointing, even though I left none of them on my bench. You steal 5 bases, you kind of figure you're going to win this week unless you're going up against a guy like Jason who's got Whit Merrifield and Victor Robles and those guys. You kind of figure you're going to win with 5 steals. I didn't. And, you see James's team, and it's not exactly a team that you expect to get 6 steals out of week to week. Yasmani Grandal gets him a fucking steal this week. You can't see that.
Right. No, even Schwarber, who he benched, got caught stealing.
Yeah.
Even that guy went for 1.
Yeah. So
goes that way.
Yeah. Pitching wise for me, I'm going to give it to Joe Jimenez, and I've got a very interesting stat for you here in a moment. Joe Jimenez gave me two saves, a loss, 2 1/3 innings, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, a 3.86 ERA, 2.14 WHIP. He basically won me the saves category. Interesting little stat here. Shane Green, since the trade that I sent him to James McCloskey, you know how many saves that guy has gotten?
5?
2.
Wow.
2 saves since June 13th.
This is something that you and I envisioned could possibly happen while trading him, because he had such a good season on a terrible team that he could get moved. I thought that that's something that could happen, but I did not think the number was that low.
Yeah, Shane Green has not gotten a save since June 29th against the Nationals. Joe Jimenez, on the other hand, since the trade deadline when Shane Green got moved, how many saves do you think he has?
4.
3. 2 this week and 1 last week.
2.
Yeah. 2 this week, 1 last week. Now, that being said, Hansel Robles, since the trade that sent him to James as well, 9 saves. Okay.
It seems like still, it's almost like one of those trades that you're like, wow, it really did help both teams in different ways. It was a good trade because James did win saves against his opponent, and I do recall saying wow, Shane Green had 1 and he won by 1, or he tied the category, so therefore Shane Green or Hansel Robles was key in this matchup.
Yeah.
So that's all it is, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, if James gets in the playoffs by a couple of stats, these closers help. So
that's where it is.
The trade definitely worked. You could throw the Stanton thing in there. For you on the other end, getting Morton was obviously humongous.
Absolutely.
And, having Maeda there, he's been okay, but just to even have another arm, I think it really was a fair trade for both teams.
Yeah. Homer Bailey was great for me this week. I streamed him against, I believe it was San Francisco in AT&T Park. 7 innings, a win, a walk, 7 strikeouts, shutout ball, 0.43 WHIP. I looked at this matchup. I also streamed Tyler Beatty, the San Francisco pitcher. I thought this was going to be a really nice pitcher's duel. Beatty gave up 4 runs over 4 innings, so that kind of sucks. But Bailey was lights out. That guy was really good. Finally, I'll highlight Justin Verlander. 7 innings, 2 solo homers, 11 strikeouts, 2.57 ERA, 0.57 WHIP. The 2 homers really sucked because I was watching this game, and that came on a day where four guys were going. It was, let me take a look at it real quick. It was a day where I had a bunch of guys going, much like I do. It was Mike Montgomery against the Mets, Verlander in Oakland, Morton at home against Detroit, and Maeda in Atlanta. And add in the relief appearances, I end up with a 1.63 ERA that day over 27 2/3. You know, Morton gets 10 strikeouts, Maeda gets 9 strikeouts, Verlander gets 11 strikeouts, but Verlander's the only guy who gave up a homer, and he gave up 2. And that was really disappointing for me. You know, I lost the category by 3. It would have been a lot nicer to not have that, you know, be so secure late in the week. For James, he had a really nice week from Marcus Semien. 231 average, you don't like. 281 on base isn't great. But 3 runs, a double, a triple, 2 homers, 3 RBIs, a steal, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, and an error. He filled up the entire stat line. And, you know, Semien, he was a guy I had last year that I really liked. I don't think he's going to be a guy that is the future of the A's. They've got a really talented kid down here in Vegas. They're the AAA affiliate for the A's. He's going to eventually take that job away from him, but the guy's pretty solid. 21 homers, 58 RBIs, a 271 average. You know, I think they find a way to maybe move him to second base, or, you know, we'll see going forward. But for James, this is a really nice anchor at shortstop that he got. I think 13th round, almost a 200th pick. Yeah.
Barely.
Yeah.
Second half for sure.
Yeah. No, he did. He got him in the 13th round, right around pick 200. Like, you'll take 20 homers out of a middle infielder in that later round.
Yeah, I think the big fear was that the guy would commit a lot of errors.
Sure.
It seems to be, improving there, actually. So, like, that was the one thing. Like, I would never have touched Semien because it's just, like, feels like he's going to get you an error per week at least. But it seems like at least that part of it has been good for him.
Yeah. Dexter Fowler gave him a good week. 278 average, 417 on base, 3 runs, a double, a homer, 5 RBIs, a steal, 5 walks, and 5 strikeouts. He had a huge game in Cincinnati back on Friday. 3 for 6, a homer. I think he hit a grand slam. You know, it was just a ridiculous day for him. Finally, Yasmani Grandal I hit on earlier. 350 average, 480 on base, 2 runs, a homer, 3 RBIs, a steal, 5 walks, and 6 strikeouts. You know, James did win the walks category fairly convincingly, along with on base by 20 ticks. So guys with high walk totals like Fowler and Grandal are the guys I want to highlight. Pitching-wise for him, Dakota Hudson gave him a good start. 6 innings, 2 walks, a win, 4 strikeouts, a 1.17 ERA. The start came at Kansas City early in the week. You know, this kid's been pretty good. You know, he's another St. Louis Cardinal product that just keeps getting churned out. You know, and it's another kid that they're gonna rely on going forward. Joey Lucchesi.
Yeah, I wonder how he does tonight, though. It's a bit of a taller task for him. So I just.
Oh yeah.
Hey, I wonder if James starts him. You know, against James McCloskey. That'll be interesting to see.
Absolutely. Joey Lucchesi gets him just enough innings to get him over the minimum. 6 innings, a win, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, a 3 ERA, and a 0.83 WHIP. Add that with the start that he had in Tampa Bay earlier in the week, which wasn't as good. He gets a 4.22 ERA, a 1.22 WHIP on the week. But again, it's the start on Sunday that really matters for him. Finally, the streamed start of Michael Pineda also gave him 5 innings, a win, 6 strikeouts. Again, it wasn't a great start, but it's every single one of those innings that he streamed in order to get over the minimum. For me, you know, going forward, I've got a really tough schedule. We talked about it. For James, you know, he gets James McCloskey, he gets Jason in week 21, and finishes up with Josh Haber. So he's got an opportunity to spoil a couple of seasons here coming up. He had the opportunity against me.
As do you to an extent, right?
Yeah.
Against Mike Sherman in the final week. And if you could somehow grab that lopsided loss from Jason, I mean, look, I think that one is anyone's game between you and Jason. You're batting 276. That leads the league this year. So he's got his work cut out for him. He's got your management to deal with. He's got a tough team to deal with. And hopefully James Santangelo can do a little bit of damage and take care of business. He's only managed to spoil me and Chris Levy this year. He's beaten Chris Levy both times. Not humongous wins, but enough to make a difference. Levy would be in a better position if he won at least one of those matchups. But me as well, obviously, stopped the streak when he beat me 13-8. Maybe he's got one more spoil shot in either this week against James or the following week against Jason. That's what the league is hoping for right now. And as for you, like you said, getting healthier, getting better, and the streak goes on, hopefully.
Yeah. 7 straight weeks for James where he has the opportunity to spoil seasons. You, Levy, Bobby, Haber, Mike Haber, me, James McCloskey, Jason Ashby. It's literally 7 of the, 8 or 9 teams in the race that he gets to face. And the only one that he takes a really lopsided loss to is the guy in first place. Like, little difficult to see there. Otherwise, maybe he does. Maybe he gets James McCloskey this week. Maybe he gets Jason Ashby this week.
Anything is possible.
He beat Jason back in week 6, 12-8. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see. Let's jump to the next matchup, though. Let's jump to it's going to be Jimmy Dunlap, who's still calling himself the Titanic. He got himself over that losing streak by beating up on Uncle Barry this week, 11-8. Close categories this week for Jimmy. He wins by a run and a complete game. Barry wins by 10 ticks on the batting average. It actually ends up being a bit more. There must have been a roster. 14 points on the batting average. Yeah, it must have been
amazing batting averages from both these guys.
Yeah, must have been a stat correction. He wins by a loss, a walk given up by a pitcher, and a relief appearance. They tied in triples, errors, and saves. For Jimmy this week, he goes 8 for 36. That's a 222 batting average. 3 runs, 4 doubles, a homer, 7 RBIs, 2 walks, and 10 strikeouts. None of that matters. I could tell you all about Scott Kingery or this dude Arozarena, whatever that is.
You can try and tell, but I don't know who you're talking about.
I have no idea what an Arozarena is. Randy Arozarena. It sounds like somebody you went to high school with that you never talked to. It's like, oh yeah, you remember that guy Randy we went to high school with? Yeah. No,
I don't.
Exactly, because he was a nobody, and that's exactly what he was for Jimmy, because he left him on the bench all week. Again, at the end of the day, none of the offensive categories matter because he won the ones that he needed to, and the ones that he didn't leave enough on the bench. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
Moves this week. He got a great start. He got a decent start from Adam Wainwright. Ironically, he dropped high school guy Randy Arozarena for him. 6 2/3. Looks like 2 homers, a walk, 6 strikeouts, 4.05 ERA, 120 WHIP. It certainly helped him. He won ERA fairly decently, but they both pitched to ERAs 5 and above, WHIPs 1.4 and above. So it wasn't a great pitching week for either of these guys, but Jimmy gets 7 wins over 77 innings, so that's certainly a solid performance there. For Uncle Barry, he goes 5 for 30. That's a 167 batting average. 5 runs, 3 doubles, a triple, an RBI, a stolen base, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts, and an error. The triple and the 5 runs are what really stick out. Obviously, the 5 runs. It's as simple as a Greg Allen start over, obviously, Al Garcia. Or he can do it in one move. He moves Leury Garcia into the utility spot for Cameron Maybin on Saturday. Garcia goes 1 for 5 with a run, a triple, and 2 strikeouts. Maybin 0 for 2, a run, a double, and 2 strikeouts. He would have won triples there, find the run elsewhere.
Do you find a logical reason for him to have made that switch, though?
So Leury Garcia, in my opinion, is the better player. He was hitting in the better part of the lineup. Leury Garcia was hitting leadoff. Cameron Maybin hitting 6th. The game, Leury Garcia is in LA. Cameron Maybin is facing Cleveland. Cleveland was throwing Zach Plesac, who wasn't the greatest start. Leury Garcia in LA is facing Noe Ramirez and then Jose Suarez, so it's not the greatest set of pitchers there. If it's me, I probably, Leury Garcia is hitting 284. He's got 14 steals. Cameron Maybin 309, 8 homers, 7 steals, but he doesn't play every day. Like, maybe you feel like, okay, this guy is I don't know. I would love to pick Uncle Barry's brain.
When a guy's batting leadoff for you, Joe, there's like a chance he goes like 0 for 4 and just ruins batting average.
Sure. Sure.
So that might be part of it.
Sure. To that end, Uncle Barry was playing Hanser Alberto playing leadoff and Eric Sogard playing leadoff. He was playing Ryan Braun and Pedro Severino batting 6th. I'd love to pick Uncle Barry's brain and find out why he did that one. Uncle Barry, I know you watch every single one of these. Saturday, the Yuri Garcia versus Cameron Maybin utility spot. Explain below. For his moves this week, he got some pretty awful streaming starts. Ronaldo Lopez was awful, 8.44 ERA. Sean Reed Foley was bad, 3 1/3 and 8.10 ERA. Devin Smeltzer, 4 innings in relief, 6.75 ERA. It's just a really bad pitching week for Uncle Barry, and I think that's maybe 2 or 3 in a row this way. I could be wrong, but I feel like considering this guy was up against you in one of the most amazing matchups we've ever seen, where both of you throw to like a sub 1.5 ERA.
Right.
To see him
we were under 1 in whip, and I think I beat him by 1 tick in whip.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable week. To see the difference between then and now, to where he's throwing to 5+ almost every week now. It's rough to see. Yeah, last week was a 7.41 ERA. The week before that was a 5.15. The week before that was a 5.15. It's been a bad month for Uncle Barry pitching, and you're not going to spoil anybody's season throwing that way.
Right, and how many of these guys are actually that he drafted? You know what I mean? Things have changed since his rotation that he had on draft day.
Yeah, none of these guys are guys he drafted. In fact, I don't think he's even rostering a starter. Miles Mikolas, who he didn't throw this week.
And Trevor Williams? Did he have Williams at the start?
He dropped Trevor Williams this week.
Probably not.
And he did draft him. He drafted him in the 14th round, but dropped him back on, Wednesday. Dropped him on Wednesday. Anibal Sanchez he picked up. Steven Braulti's picked up. Miles Mikolas is last man standing. 4th rounder, 52nd overall, a 4.30 ERA, a 1.25 whip, 106 strikeouts over 142 1/3 innings. He's not very good either. The rest of these guys, he's just piecing it together and not very well, if I am honest. Let's go to key players this week. For Jimmy, it's going to be Will Smith, not the rapper or the pitcher, but the catcher. 385 average, 556 on base percentage, 7 runs, 3 homers, 5 RBIs, 4 walks, and 4 strikeouts. Alex Bregman, 400 average, 500 on base, 7 runs, 3 doubles, 3 RBIs, a walk, and 2 strikeouts with an error. And finally, Keston Hiura, 435 average, 519 on base, 6 runs, 3 doubles, 3 homers, a steal, 4 walks, and 7 strikeouts. Like I said, Jimmy won a good portion of the offensive categories this week: runs, homers, RBIs, on base percentage, and walks. All of these guys contributed in a big way for that. That's not to discount Anthony Rizzo, who had 5 walks, or Max Kepler, who had 6 walks, but those guys hit 200 and 136 respectively. So, other than the walks, they didn't do a whole lot.
Sure, and he absolutely completely doubled Uncle Barry walks, 37. I think I had 36 during my week, and I thought that was a lot, and I had my 400 on base percentage. Jimmy just falls short of a 400 on base percentage here with a 397, but still doubles his opponents in walks. He had 37 to Uncle Barry's 18, so that's just incredible. When you're going to go 2 for 1 on walks, you're generally going to win on base percentage. So I tip my cap. All these guys really helped them out.
Yeah, absolutely. Pitching wise, okay. Earlier on in this season, I had a very loud and profane rant about Ivan Nova. Consider this my 1-week apology to Ivan Nova. He throws a complete game. He gets the win, 3 strikeouts. gives up one unearned run. Jimmy got the best start this guy is going to have all season. Considering last week he threw 8 innings, 3 walks, a strikeout, and a win. And I think that also came on Jimmy's team. He's getting the best of Ivan Nova you could possibly find. Now, he's had 4 strikeouts over 17 innings. He's had 3 walks over 17 innings. He goes today in Minnesota. I wonder if Jimmy's going to start him, because I would be absolutely petrified of some sort of regression here. His last 5 starts, I will read this off to you. Start at home against Miami, goes a complete game, gives up 1 earned run, a home run, 5 strikeouts. Goes against Minnesota at home, 6 innings, a win, 4 strikeouts, a walk, nothing earned, an 0.50 whip.
Pretty solid.
In Philadelphia, 5 innings, a homer, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. The homer was a solo shot, so it's a 1.80 ERA, a 1.40 whip. At Detroit, 8 innings, the win, 3 walks, a strikeout, nothing earned, a 1 whip. And now against Houston, complete game, unearned run, 3 strikeouts, 0.44 whip, and a win. That's 5 straight really good starts from this guy. Now he gets Minnesota at home. I would be petrified of negative regression coming.
Team that, but it's just a matter of like, when is the roulette wheel going to finally drop on black? Like, it's hit red like quite a few times now, right? So you're just waiting for it to, when's the other shoe going to fall?
When does he regress back to the mean? Like, this was a really nice 5-start run, but right before that, 4 2/3 against Kansas City, 11.57 ERA. 6 innings against Oakland, a 6 ERA with 3 home runs. 6 innings against Minnesota, 6 earned runs. And at Texas, a 4.50 ERA, 6 innings in the loss with 2 homers. Like, that's more where he stands. I am not going to apologize for saying that this guy is garbage. This guy had a really nice month, but he's fucking trash, and he's going to fall back to the mean, and Jimmy's going to drop him. And look, Jimmy's got the best of this guy. He's got the best month out of this guy's probably career. So take it for what it is. I would be scared to death of this start, but there's absolutely no reason Jimmy doesn't start him today. It's Monday. He can recover from a bad start. The guy's been incredibly hot. Like, I wouldn't blame Jimmy a single bit if he started him. But I would not be surprised if he goes...
Yeah, but don't you feel like sometimes Monday or Tuesday is the worst time to start a guy? Because, like, if you murder your ERA really early in the week, then you're just, like, you're playing from behind. So you're better off, like, thinking, I'll get another start from this guy later in the week, but this is not the right matchup. So I hear what you're saying. Like, sometimes, like, hey, on a Monday, like, let me get some innings. Like, let's get the ball rolling. But, like, that's sort of a double-edged sword, too, Joe.
I mean, we live in a world where you and I have different philosophies on how to strategize for this, right? If it's me and I've got a hot pitcher, I'm going to start him on Monday, and if he gets blown up, well, that just says I'm going after innings and strikeouts and wins and see what I can find, right? See what I can dig up. And if I get a great start, well, then that sets me in the driver's seat to a really good week. I've got Zach Gallen going today at home against Colorado. If he goes really deep into that game, I'm going to be thrilled. But if he goes 5 innings and gives up 3 earned, I'm not going to be mad.
No.
He's been really good lately. So I'll take the start. His next one's at Milwaukee. I don't know that I'm going to start him there. So I'll take what I can get. Moving back to Jimmy's key players, we'll go to Zach Greinke. Zach Greinke gave him 13 innings, 12 strikeouts, a 2.08 ERA, a 1.23 whip, 2 wins, a homer, and 5 walks. He did wins like 7-2, so give Greinke credit for getting 2 of them. And finally, Liam Hendriks, who's been an absolute steal for him. 2 relief appearances, 2 saves, 2 1/3, 3 strikeouts. He won saves. Oh no, he tied saves, and Liam Hendriks is absolutely the reason why. Going to Uncle Barry, offensively, he did not have a bad week offensively. Starling Marte gave him a great week. 480 average, 519 on base, 5 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, an RBI, 4 steals, and a strikeout. The 4 steals are enormous. He won steals by 4. Xander Bogaerts gave him a good week. 407 average, 448 on base, 4 runs, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 7 RBIs, a steal, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts. And finally, Yuli Gurriel, 333 average, 419 on base, 4 runs, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 4 walks, 2 strikeouts, and an error. Pitching-wise, it wasn't very pretty. Adrian Hauser gave him 7 innings of a no decision, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, a 1.29 ERA, and 0.57 WHIP. That's about as good as it got.
Yeah, that's the best we've heard out of the 80s movie villain. That's like, I guess maybe he actually is going to be a real pitcher that we're going to see in the future.
Yeah, I mean, that's the second straight good start for him. He went 6 innings against Texas back on the 10th, 1.50 ERA and 10 strikeouts. So, like, maybe this guy could be somebody for Uncle Barry. You know, my fear is that he pitches in Miller Park. Miller Park is an incredibly big hitter's park. So we'll see.
Yeah.
A guy whose name I have to be very careful when I say, Buck Farmer. 4 relief appearances, 4 1/3, a home run, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, 4.15 ERA, and 0.69 WHIP. It comes because of the relief appearances. He did lead the team in relief appearances. So did Ryan Presley with 4, but Ryan Presley was bad. So there you go. And finally, whatever the hell a Jacob Wagyus pack is, that's a kid, like, he sounds like the leader of the AV club. 5 1/3 innings, a win, 5 strikeouts, 3.38 ERA, a 1.13 WHIP. Benny, tell me about this trio here. The 80s movie villain, a guy whose name you can't say fast, and a guy who leads the AV club. Like, what is Uncle Barry's pitching staff?
I don't have much to say, Joe, because I don't know much about them. They're kind of just like breaking onto the scene. This guy whose name I can't pronounce, who might have been a villain from the Ninja Turtles or Darkwing Duck. He might be good one day. All these guys, it's just they're so damn young. And starting pitching and relief pitching is so subpar this season that anything goes next season. We don't know who's going to be the next stud, the next ace. It could be one of these guys. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Who knows? Honestly, who knows?
Yeah. So, I mean, we look at these two teams now. We know what Barry's up to. He's got some spoiling to do. He doesn't have to do it this week. I think this is the one week where the other managers that are facing him in the next 2 weeks, they say, well, we hope that Uncle Barry has an explosive week this week.
Exactly.
Because it's against Nick Holman, and if he has another week like 298 he added this week, if he can bat around that this coming week as well, well, chances are for the final 2 weeks he gets a little colder. So I think that's what and most people are hoping for as far as when Uncle Barry is playing them. As far as Jimmy goes, may have saved his season. Humongous win. Got the kind of production from a lot of the hitters, and didn't get anything out of the man you call Salamander guy, Anthony. He did basically nothing, and he's a good player. I really do believe in him. So if he was cold this week, I can expect him to tear it up at some point in the next 3 weeks. Maybe carry his team, him and Rizzo in the group. So, I think Jimmy's going to be in. He's definitely in some trouble. We talked about in week 21. He's got one of the most exciting matchups with Chris Levy. If he can win and Chris Levy can win, that sets up an incredible week 21. He certainly has he doesn't have a layup in week 22. So, no team. But the question is, can he pitch with everybody else? Well, he's 9-7 in wins. He's 6-12 in losses. But he's 13-6 in innings pitched. He tries to go and get those innings. He's 10-5 in saves. 6-10 in walks given up. 4-12 in home runs given up. 15-4 strikeouts. 11-8 in ERA. 9-10 WHIP. 8-8 in relief appearances. He kind of does similar stuff that you do with the strategy and kind of going for it with the innings. And it actually has helped him because his ERA hasn't really suffered. He's still really beating most of his opponents in that regard.
Yeah.
As far as the hitting goes, 10-8 in runs, 6-12 in doubles. That's tough. Even in triples. 11-7 in homers, 9-10 in RBIs, 7-9 in stolen bases, 14-4 in walks is impressive, 10-9 in Ks, 9-7 in errors. So his defense is held up, 10-9 average, and then 12-7 on base percentage. So the dude goes for innings and strikeouts. The dude can walk and get on base and hit some home runs. So dangerous team going down the stretch. I like his chances. He's the rookie manager trying to be the first rookie to win a championship since 2011 when Thomas Murphy did it. Mm-hmm. So it'll be cool. You know, it'll be just exciting to see a rookie get into the playoffs again.
Yeah.
And see what they can do. But not a cookie as far as his last three matchups. He's going to have to grind it out.
Yeah, he's definitely going to have to earn it. You know, he gets Andy this week, who we know Andy is gonna fight hard for this one, and then he gets Chris Levy and finishes out the season with Mike Haber. And Mike Haber's he may not have anything to play for, but it certainly, from experience as that 1 seed, you like to figure out, you know, okay, I get this team in week 23 or week 22. I don't want to have to face this guy in the playoffs, so I'll just crush him now and consider it a playoff game. I'll move to my bye. You know?
Right.
With that, we're gonna take a short break, guys. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Benny and I are probably gonna talk off air about some stuff coming up, and we'll be right back.